We are tonight's entertainment.
You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Excellent!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Movie Mania podcast, where we talk films past, present, and future. I'm Sherman Trey Weiss of Podcast Media, and joining me is the man, the myth, the legend. One of these days, Lawrence, one of these days, you will be his. Bandit Incorporated.
What? Hello, everyone, to the near 500 of you now.
Oh, yeah,
great.
that's right. That's insane.
Somewhere
Wow.
around about, we hover somewhere around that number at the moment, so that's great.
Wow.
Fantastic.
We could fill up 5 movie theaters. Wow.
Could we? Yeah, I guess we could.
Yeah, I mean, we'll turn it on the size. And for you guys that don't know, that opening intro was a reference to Bandit's obsession with Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh, right. I was wondering that. I was like,
One of these days, Lawrence, you will be his.
normally you mix it up with movie quotes. So I'm like, oh, I haven't seen that movie.
Yeah. I was going to do a good podcaster and a better friend, but I decided to go with Jennifer Lawrence this time.
Yeah, go with the insult. The insult's better. So today we have our James Bond episode, the old school, covering some of the old school James Bond.
Yes,
But-
that's right. We're going to be going over some of the older films, for better or for worse.
Yep.
We're going to talk about, maybe how they connect to the future of Bond and some more modern Bond films. But first,
Yeah, but
let's
hang
get
on,
to the
but
movie.
for anyone who's listening is like, why do I care about the old James Bond? I don't care about that. They connect to the Daniel Craig ones because You Only Live
they
Twice
really do.
is going to give a lot of Easter eggs to Spectre when it comes out, and on Her Majesty's Secret Service is kind of like the proto Casino Royale. So stay tuned. It is going to be relevant.
Yeah, we're going to
Just
get
as these
to
movies
those
are so old.
connections. Yeah. And don't worry, you don't have to go back and watch it, but we'll get to that when we get it. Okay, let's
Yeah.
get to the movie news.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. Cannonball!
Okay, well, for starters, The Flash 2018, starring Ezra Miller, it now has a director. Lord and Miller are writing it, but now we have Seth Grahame-Smith, who will be directing it. And for you guys that don't know, he directed films such as, pulling it up on IMDb, he's not directed any films yet, but he's written films such as Dark Shadows and Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. Bandit, your thoughts?
Ooh.
That's what I said.
Ooh. I guess we've always got the Flash TV show.
I haven't seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the first episode, but yeah.
He also wrote this past year's Oscars. Apparently, he wrote some of the stuff for the Oscars, which apparently was one of the most hated Oscars ever. So
Really?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. People really didn't like this one. I thought it was okay. It wasn't no Seth MacFarlane or Steve Martin and Alec Baldwin, but whatever. It happens.
Well, I guess. Yeah. Well, I mean, you mentioned the guy who's writing the Flash movie. What other stuff has that guy written?
Well, the
'cause we
writers
might
of the
not-
Flash movie are Phil Lord and Chris Miller. I know they're writing it.
Okay.
At least they're doing some treatments for it. I know those are the guys that did 21, 22 Jump Street and Lego Movie. So, so those guys have some talent.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
Yeah.
encouraging. Yeah, because the director, you hear it and you're like, there's not much to go off. But those writers,
Yeah.
often like a good script can hold up lack of other stuff.
Yes.
So, I mean, yeah, that could be good.
Yeah. So I'm not exactly turning it down. I'm just really apprehensive because I don't know. This director doesn't really seem to have a style.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just, and also, did you hear Thor got a director? Thor Ragnarok.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
who'd you get?
Yes. Okay. Let me pull that up because I forgot to write that down. I forgot to write that down. I completely did. I just pulled that out
I
of
should
my
stop
head.
quizzing you with all these questions because I don't know what you've what you've got those.
It's
for.
okay. No.
You know.
It's Taika Waititi. Yes, that's foreign. Taika Waititi. We're gonna get used to saying that a long time, just like True Ejiofor for.
Yeah.
And he won. No, he got nominated for an Oscar for directing some short films. He's done a lot of work that we probably haven't heard of. He did Flight of the Conchords, which I have not heard of. But I don't know.
Side of the
Yeah,
Conchords.
so
Yeah, I know that. It's a TV show.
yeah, so I see the method that Marvel and DC are doing here when they don't want another Edgar Wright / Joss Whedon situation where they can't control their director, which is smart and kind of cheap, but whatever. Yeah.
Well, I suppose
All right.
it's that could be good actually, because Flight of the Conchords got kind of like a quirky kind of humor, but it's like a quirky, smart kind of humor. So I
Right.
think Thor could do with a bit of that, because
Okay.
the Marvel humor is a little bit, especially with Thor, is a little bit cheesy.
Oh yeah, they need to fix that up. I would
Yeah.
love to see Kenneth Branagh come back to do it, because I don't know if you've seen Cinderella, but that was a fantastic movie. And Kenneth Branagh really knows his stuff. He really knows how to develop a world, and I feel like the first Thor felt a lot more like a fantasy than a sci-fi as opposed to the second one. And I think if you're going into Ragnarok, which is the end of all ends, and if this is supposedly going to be the Winter Soldier of Phase 3, and that's going to shape the whole MCU in a completely different way, just in time for Infinity War, I think. That's a cool concept.
It seems like it's going to pave the way for Infinity Wars, because if that's all about this cosmic gems and all that, setting that up in a Thor movie makes perfect sense.
Yeah, because I actually think that's because I think that this one comes out November of 2017. Because I know this one got pushed back because of Spider-Man. I actually wrote this one down. Yeah, Thor Ragnarok comes out November of 2017, and then Infinity War will be out May 2019 or 18, excuse me. So they're clearly setting something up. I would maybe wish they would have gotten a director that would have been able to add their own flair to it, because I feel like that's what Marvel is really missing. I think these days is each movie having their own kind of style, with the exception of like a Winter Soldier or a Guardians. Every movie kind of feels, I don't want to say the same, but they all kind of feel like I'm watching
Formulaic.
There you go. Thank
Yeah.
you. They feel formulaic. And even with
Ant-Man
Winter
felt
Soldier,
very much like that. They're like, here's the formula, just stick to it and it'll be a success. But it's starting to get stale.
At least with Ant-Man, it was they kept it small, and so that was refreshing enough. And they used the humor to make it kind of a heist movie, which I enjoyed a lot more than just having another end of the world. Because even in Winter Soldier, that was a political 70s thriller, but that third act was very much an end of the world. We have to make this giant CGI explosion thing happen. And all the Marvel movies are very much like that. Even Guardians of the Galaxy is like that, the third act. So I'm hoping I was really hoping they could do something different, but I don't think they're going that way. But that's okay. We'll still get good movies probably. Moving on. Wait, do you have any further thoughts?
Oh, I was just going to say, side point, because you mentioned Winter Soldier was like a political drama. If someone's out there and is like, I don't get the political connotations to it, I saw a really cool documentary on Netflix called Dirty Wars, which I won't go into huge detail, but it's basically about, you hear on the news about drone strike takes out this terrorist, or team takes out Bin Laden or goes into some house or whatever. And you're like, who are these guys? And how does all that work? And it's a documentary about all of that. But when you watch it, you're like, this is exactly what Winter Soldier was talking about. It's about targeting people who we consider threats, or sometimes preemptively before they're a threat. And how do you even know if that process is, right? Or you're getting the right people? That's what Winter Soldier is all about. And when you see it, you'll be like, oh, this is what they were. This is the commentary they were giving. So Dirty Wars on Netflix, really interesting.
Well, that sets up a point, because the whole you can't trust people kind of thing, that kind of, I don't want to say it gets paid off, but it gets brought back up in Age of Ultron whenever Tony's like, Ultron was meant to, in many ways, to be a thing that prevents a war before it starts. And that's in many ways what the Superhero Registration Act is. So I think Age of Ultron did a lot. Never mind. I was going to a point,
also in that, he says, Captain America says every time someone tries to end a war before it starts, innocent people get killed.
Yes.
So, which is very
true.
true.
I remember when that scene got leaked online, and I saw it for the first time, and I was like, oh my god, Civil War set up. And now
really
I'm
looking
watching,
forward to Civil War.
But I'm not sure that I am, because I'm not sure how Civil War this movie's actually going to be.
Like you said, civil argument.
Yeah, it's like civil dispute, civil
Civil
scuffle.
disagreement.
Yeah. Yeah, civil scuffle on the playground. Yeah, civil roughness is what this is going to be, really.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping that they can keep it this kind of end of like the team kind of thing, but I don't know if they're going to do that because we've got an Avengers movie in 2 years. So
I mean,
okay,
you're right.
Yeah.
They definitely need to do something to make it seem like Civil War, because if it's just they're fighting, you're like, so what? They've been fighting in every movie.
Yeah, we've
You know,
seen
it's
this.
It's got to be something bigger if it's going to be Civil War.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm a little nervous. Okay, F. Gary Gray, director of movies like Straight Outta Compton, he will be directing Furious 8.
Okay.
I don't care.
Well, we know
I don't care.
we know it's going to make a ton of money. Is
Yes,
Jason
it is.
Statham in Furious 8? I don't know.
Have you seen Furious 7?
Yep.
Okay, he might be. Well, I think the rumor was that it was going to be like the Shaw brothers teaming up to take them down.
That's what I want to see.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't care because I don't like these movies anymore. They've gotten worse as I saw them.
Yeah.
Like 5 was great. I love 5. I think it's a good heist movie. Awesome action, good Rock versus Vin Diesel fight, which I can't wait to see that video, by the way. And then, and then 6 is just like, okay, 6 is kind of cool action, some cool stuff, I guess. And then 7's just like, what is this?
Yeah.
7, it's just, I don't care.
There are a lot of moments when I watched it where I was, unironically laughing.
Yes.
But I didn't really hold it against me, like especially like when Vin Diesel is fighting Jason Statham at the end, and they've both got like metal bars or whatever, like sword fighting, and they run and they jump and they leap at each other in slow motion, going.
Exactly.
And I was just like,
this is what I'm talking about.
This?
The whole movie of like, and they're just like, turn your brain off. It's dumb, Bob. It's dumb movie. It's dumb fun. And then when a movie comes out that makes you want to think, they're like, I don't like this movie. I don't like that it makes you think. I'm like, you don't like. And listen, this has nothing against Paul Walker, and I think he was a great man, humanitarian, all that. I'm sure he was an awesome person.
Yeah.
But I'm not a fan of the 3 minutes compilation memorial video that they put at the end of this 2-hour action testosterone filled booty shaken movie, and that the movie stops in its tracks to have this ending that doesn't fit anywhere into the rest of this movie. It makes no sense.
Well, first of all, the movie doesn't stop in its tracks because it's at the very end. And secondly, like, everybody in the audience is like, how are they going to handle this? And I thought it was really good.
Listen, it's a well-made scene.
Paul Walker. I was like, I didn't really care about you before you died, but now I really care about you.
My point exactly. Listen, my point exactly. No one cares until he dies. Okay. I don't want to disrespect him, but it's a well-made scene. It's a well-shot scene. I think that's a good song, but it doesn't belong in this movie. When half an hour ago they were jumping cars from building to building, and then you have this, you can't. No,
I know,
you can't do that.
But in a way, in a movie where people are like leaping from moving cars off highways and flying through the air, and all that ridiculous stuff. That bit at the end where they like have the car sort of driving off in the distance, then the camera goes up into the sky, like, and the lens flare fills. It's like just subtly saying he's in heaven now. That was surprisingly sensitive and subtle for a movie that has slow motion leaping at each other.
Subtle.
Yes, by their standards, that's very subtle.
It's jarring. I wouldn't go subtle. It's like it's like if you're driving a Mad Max car and then suddenly someone hands you a rose and then you're just like, oh, what a lovely rose. Like it's like you can't.
What a rose.
You can't.
What a lovely rose.
Like, you can't just do that, and then it goes into a rap song in the end credits. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you can't do that. Like.
Well, what would you have had them do? Just have some text saying "in memory of Paul Walker"? Yeah, that really means a lot.
No, I think if you want it, like, you can have your memorial to Paul Walker, but you can't. I think maybe they blend it into the movie more. Maybe they change that tone of that movie. Maybe they try to tell a compelling story with the movie and not just try to have 3 minutes of a listen. It's like I said before, it's a well shot scene. It's a well made scene. It doesn't belong in that movie. That's just my thought. I was very disappointed by Furious 7. I saw it 2 weeks after it came out, so I didn't catch the buzz of the whole thing, but I haven't liked this movie.
Would you prefer it if they said, let's have this fit in with the tone of the rest of the movie? So they just have like women just grinding onto a coffin that has like a picture of Paul Walker on it, and all this rap music playing and cars like driving by in the distance. Would that make you happy because it fits with the tone of the rest of the movie?
It would have made me happy.
Would be kind of awesome, actually.
To it. You got issues. You got issues, Bandit. You got issues. No, I don't. Okay, we need to get past this.
We'll move on.
F. Gary Gray, how do you think he'll handle Furious 8?
Probably the same as Furious 7.
Yeah.
I mean, what else could they do with it? I think they just need to keep doing the same thing until we're sick of it.
Yeah, just get Vin Diesel to direct it. I don't know, just because you couldn't see James Wan's style at all in this movie. You could see Justin Lin's style, but that's because Fast and Furious is Justin Lin's style. So I like you can't. I don't know. There might be more black people in this movie. I don't know.
I wouldn't mind them like going back to street racing a bit. You know, I mean, they've sort of expanded out to like Fast and Furious is about this crew that does these missions, but yeah, maybe just go back to a little bit more street racing will be good.
I don't know. I probably look. I'll see the next one. Probably. I don't know if I'll go. I won't go opening night. I won't pay for it. That's for sure. I have no sympathy. I have no compassion. I have no love for this franchise anymore. And anyone who, if your argument for a movie, for your franchise being good, is that you have to turn your brain off, really is not a good franchise.
That's true.
Like,
that's true. But if a movie is called Fast and Furious, it needs to be Fast and Furious.
But you can also be Fast and Furious and tell a compelling story, i.e. Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah, but that was also Mad Max and Furious.
Yeah, Mad Max was fast and it was furious, but you cared about what was going on because it was well directed and told a good story. Minimal storytelling, but it was still good storytelling. Furious 7 and the Fast and Furious franchise is just slow motion butts, boobs, shaking, guns,
I think
beer.
Fast and Furious is kind of like the smart man's Michael Bay franchise.
No. They're about on par, I think they're on par.
There's no way it's as dumb as Transformers and all the terrible stuff in that.
What's the difference? What's the difference?
Well, I mean, there's no pedophilia in Fast and the Furious. There's no creepy scenes.
But there is race wars. They said that in the last movie. There is race wars. There is Iggy Azalea. There is Ronda Rousey. Yeah.
At least Michael Bay keeps the racism, just in stereotypes, but they just came out and said it.
Yes. And there is shaky cam fistfights that we can't see what's happening.
Yeah.
I'll give it to you. There's cool looking car stunts, but there's cool looking robot stuff in the Transformers movies. There's characters in Fast and Furious, but there's also characters in Transformers. And by characters, I mean vaguely expressed stereotypes. And I think Honest Trailer did it best when they described it. It's like Ocean's 11. It's like, you got the Bernie Mac, you got the cool guy.
It is like Ocean's 11. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Ocean's 11 on steroids, especially in the Rock.
I don't care about this franchise. I'm so done with Fast and Furious. I'm going to go again because I have to go.
Surprised to hear so much hate. Wow.
Listen, I'm sorry. I just
no, that's
whenever
fine.
it's like Jurassic World. Whenever something becomes so popular that some people start to praise it to be one of the best movies of the year, and that it's so cool, and that it's like, see the extended edition. I see that it's made. If it's beat the Avengers and grossing, I'm like, hold on. It's not that great, and here's why. So it's kind of that hipster mentality, but moving on.
Sure.
Marvel has been adding things to their lineup. First of all, they announced the sequel to Ant-Man, titled Ant-Man and the Wasp, which will be due out. It's July 6, 2018. So, your thoughts on Ant-Man and the Wasp?
Fine.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think? There's not really much else to say. It's okay, fine.
Well, a lot of people are crapping on the title They feel like the title reminds them of Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
And my first thought was, it feels like a 1960s comic book. Like Amazing issue number 7, Ant-Man and the Wasp. You know, it's like the Amazing Spider-Man. It's the title of the movie.
You're right.
Know?
It does sound very comic booky. Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah, or like an old 60s TV show. You know, and that kind of is the tone that they're going for with this franchise. From it looks like. So I'm into it. Yeah. I don't like my Black Panther being pushed around so much. Because it was supposed to come out November 2017, and then Spider-Man came out and pushed it to summer of 2018, and then Ant-Man comes in and they push it to February of 2018.
Yeah,
I'm not a big fan of them pushing around my Black Panther.
Yeah, I don't like them pushing around the Black Panther either, because like even Spider-Man fans who wanted to see him in Marvel, I don't think they would have minded waiting a while so you could get Black Panther first.
Or even like stick them. I don't know, maybe because like they're doing. Let me see the lineup here. Marvel's got 3. Marvel's got 3 movies, I think, coming out every year for the next couple of years. But I just like, I don't know. Yeah, maybe just wait to put Spider-Man in. I don't see why Spider-Man is such an important property. I think this is Sony's doing. I think this is because of Sony. Because Sony needs
they're
this.
Probably like, we didn't sell you Spider-Man just so you could put him on the shelf for 3 years. Do something.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. That's probably
because what if they don't get Bond back, and suddenly Bond makes $1 billion and then it goes to Universal or something?
Yeah, actually, I suppose you're right. Yeah, they probably would want a Spider-Man movie pretty soon, but then why push back Black Panther? Push back somebody else. Push back the Ant-Man sequel. Nobody cares about that.
I don't know. I care about it. Apparently, I don't know. I really liked Ant-Man. I loved me some Ant-Man. I thought it was great.
But
did you not like Ant-Man?
No, I did. It was just, like we said before, it was just very formulaic. And see, Black Panther's totally unique character, unlike anything we've seen before. He's a black man who's basically Batman.
Yes, with vibranium.
But he's a prince on this island African nation, a fictional one called Wakanda. And it's this cool society with all this advanced technology. And that's where vibranium, or is it Is it vibranium or is it adamantium?
No,
whatever.
It's
the metal it comes from.
Yeah.
He's got a really interesting story, and Spider-Man, we know his story. So I mean, I'd rather they push someone else back.
Well, to be fair, we're getting Black Panther before we getting Ant-Man, the Ant-Man sequel.
Okay.
Black Panther's February 16th, 2018. But Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel.
Oh wait, one thing.
Yes.
NerdSync, it's a friend of mine, YouTube channel. He actually did a video about Black Panther where he's like, did they name Black Panther after, the activist group Black Panther? And I won't spoil the answer, but it's really actually quite interesting. Like the short answer is no.
Okay.
They just picked an animal. But it was also like there's this whole sort of backstory as well about, because then when the Black Panther movement started to pick up and it became more controversial, they changed him in the comics because they didn't want to reflect on that. But then also the Black Panther movement picked that because it was based off this panther like football symbol or something. And the comic was also inspired from that. So even though they're not drawn directly, they kind of have similar origins. Anyway, he explains it way better, but it's really interesting.
Yeah. Well, whenever I hear the word panther, I think of Anchorman, and my mind goes to Sex Panther.
Wow.
50% of the time, it works every time.
Yeah. 50. That's a funny movie. I love that. 50% of the time, it works all the time.
And I think the sequel's pretty good too. But that's just me.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's everything. Oh, also, Marvel has announced. Oh yeah, wait, Captain Marvel. Yeah,
there's a lot
Captain
of Marvel
Marvel's also
news.
been pushed.
Wow.
Yeah, Captain Marvel has been pushed to March 8th of 2019, which means it'll be coming out between Avengers: Infinity Wars Part 1 and 2. It was supposed to come out, I think, November of 2018, and then it got pushed to March. So
they've pushed back the girl superhero and they've pushed back the black superhero.
Kinda. Black Widow toys.
Is there a superhero that is a black woman? That'll probably never get made based off this.
She-Hulk. I kind of counts, but she was a blonde chick before. Never mind.
Is she black?
No, she's blonde. She's blonde. She's a blonde white woman. That's a Gamora's played by a black woman.
Yes, that's true. True.
Latina. She's Latina.
Batista's black too, isn't he?
No, he's not.
Isn't he? Maybe he's Greek or something. Oh, whatever. Who cares? Everyone is equal. It doesn't matter.
You know who is black? The Rock. I didn't know The Rock was black.
Oh yeah, I think he's half black, half Samoan, isn't he?
Yeah, I didn't know that. I was like, oh, represented my people. Good job, Rock. Thank you.
Isn't The Rock awesome? I love The Rock.
Yes. You know what? What do you think about The Rock, man? You think he's cool? Yeah.
I think he's amazing.
It doesn't matter what you think.
I walked right into that one, didn't I?
Yeah. Right. R.I.P. all the headphone
You
users,
can't
I'm sorry.
see me.
John,
I'm sorry. I'm
that.
just going to punch
Okay.
myself in the face for even saying that. Right?
Okay.
Turn heel,
moving
John
on.
Cena. We're sick of you doing the same thing all the time. Sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. Okay. The Killing Joke. Mark Hamill has stated that he won't return as the Joker unless they do the Killing Joke.
Now,
Which they are. It's announced that they're doing the Killing Joke, and they might do
Which
it as
is
an
animated,
R-rated animated film. Hello?
which is an animated film?
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
I saw some
Yeah.
news for that, but I wasn't sure whether it was animated or live action.
Although they'll never do R-rated Batman. They'll never.
Oh no!
Until
I
an
saw something
R-rated
on Twitter that it is
until an
R.
R-rated.
I saw something on Twitter that it is an R-rated.
Oh, I mean like live action. Like until like an
live
R-rated
action,
comic
yeah.
movie will make $1 billion. They won't do R-rated Batman.
Oh no, no! You couldn't afford
Yeah.
to do that. Not enough people would be able to see it. You know, but
Well, that's what I'm
animated,
saying.
you
Like
could
until
do.
an R-rated film makes $1 billion, they won't do R-rated Batman. I think the highest grossing one's made like 600. It was American Sniper. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a bold choice, though.
yeah, it's a
The
it's a
Killing
good
Joke.
story. Like I've seen this because there's a couple of motion comics that have been put online about it. And I've actually read the actual book. It's I think they might be going that route in the live action universe because Jared Leto posted a picture of him in that pose with the camera a couple maybe earlier this year, like 10 months or so ago.
Yeah.
He posted a picture of himself as the Joker in that pose. And they do have Joker torturing somebody in that Suicide Squad trailer, which I think it's Harley Quinn, but
it is.
they've so I'd love to see the Killing Joke. I'd love to see Mark Hamill as the Killing Joke. Could you imagine him telling that joke at the end of the movie and then Batman just snapping his neck?
Well, that's supposed to be how the story ends, because
Yeah.
what's the name of the guy who wrote it?
Alan Moore.
Not Alan Moore, the other guy. It starts with a G, something or other. It'll come to me. But he in an interview he
Grant
said
Morrison?
Grant Morrison, that's it.
Yeah.
He said in an interview that a lot of people don't understand that it's not just implied. It's pretty much the whole story is written that Batman kills the Joker at the end, and that's the reason that it's called the Killing Joke. Like he said that directly.
Okay,
which
so
is awesome,
how would they do that? Would they have? They wouldn't have the sound of like someone getting their throat like crushed. It would just the laughter would just cut off, right? I don't know. I'm all for that. I would watch that just for that scene, the end of the movie, because that's such a. For you guys that don't know, the Killing Joke is a storyline in Batman mythos.
Oh yeah,
it's a storyline where it's the storyline in which Barbara gets paralyzed. It's a storyline in which Jim Gordon the Joker attempts to turn Jim Gordon insane. It's the storyline in which we learn the Joker's origin, which is I think in my opinion is the only Joker origin.
Yeah.
And the story follows that he's this failed comedian, and he has a pregnant wife, and he decides to take on this job of robbing robbing like Ace Chemicals or something.
Yeah, he starts doing work with the mob in order to get money for his family.
Yeah.
Then his wife dies in an accident. Is it a car accident or something?
I thought she got shot. I thought she was shot. I don't know, but point is, wife and kid are now gone.
Yeah, but the mob still forces him to do the job, and in amongst the job
Yeah.
is when Batman drops him into the vat of chemicals.
Yeah.
And throughout the Killing Joke, it's sort of his mission is he wants to prove that deep down everyone is like him, and deep down it only takes one bad day to turn anyone into him.
In the same way that he feels Batman had one bad day that turned him into Batman.
Yeah, and he's right about that.
Yeah. Which is really why I think a movie like The Dark Knight, pointed back to Dark Knight, The Dark Knight is such a great movie because it does the Killing Joke without doing the Killing Joke, in that he did what he did to Jim Gordon to Harvey Dent in a sense. And they used
the thing
that
with the
kind
boats, he was trying to do a similar thing there.
Yes, and he took that idea, Nolan did. He took that idea and used that in kind of a long Halloween way and meshed those stories so well together. And God, it's more reasons why the movie is such amazing. Oh, I love that movie.
Because he's not a monster. He's just ahead of the curve.
Head of the curve. Oh, what a great scene.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but I'll definitely check that out when it comes out. The Killing Joke. There's no way I won't miss that.
Yes, and Hamill doing it.
Wait a minute. There's no way I will miss that. That's what I meant to say.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry. Continue.
Let's see. Oh, and going back to Marvel, a lot of Marvel today. The Inhumans is possibly being taken off of Marvel's movie slot. Because they're doing so much work with it on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is further proof why Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. needs to be taken out of ABC. So
why are they still doing that show? Is anybody even watching it anymore?
Apparently.
Ugh, I don't know. Well, Heroes is coming back for some reason, so who knows what's going on?
Yes. And Gotham is still a thing, though.
Oh, is that
the
still
guy
around?
that they got?
Ugh.
But the guy they got to play the Joker-like character he's great. I think Gotham has adopted the silliness that is. It feels like a live action version of Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah.
But kind of dipped in the 60s Batman mythos. So Batman 89 in a sense. It feels very Batman 89, just before Batman. And so if you're into that kind of campy but yet strangely dark Batman, then it's a good choice.
Sure.
So yeah, but that's Gotham. So yeah, and Humans might not be a thing anymore.
Wow.
How would you feel about that?
Well, I remember with Vin Diesel, they promised him a role because he was doing the voice of
Bolt.
Yeah, that's right. Because he was doing the voice of Groot, but the Inhumans character, what was his name?
Black Bolt.
Black Bolt. Yeah. That guy's a mute. He doesn't talk. So at no point would anyone have gone, why does he sound like the
because
tree?
like his powers, like Black Bolt's powers is like a whisper can take down a whole city or something like that.
Yeah. I wonder if Inhumans isn't happening, are they still going to give him a job somewhere else, or is he just going to be like, no, I'm fine with Groot. I'll just keep saying the same 3 words.
I think
he'll be like, you've got the samples last time, just use them again, and just give me my paycheck. It's
he got the paper. He got the profit from those dancing Groot toys, and he is now a quadrillionaire. So he's fine. So that covers the movie news for now. Let's get into, I guess, a new segment of our show
that we made up just before starting recording this.
Yes, it is called Mr. Potter, Did You Do Your Potions Homework? Our homework segment.
Is this your homework, Larry? Is this your homework, Larry?
Just ask him about the car, man.
Is this yours, Larry? Is this your homework, Larry?
Is that your car out front?
Look, Larry, have you ever heard of Vietnam?
Wow, that was awesome. There we go.
Great. I can't wait for it to be like, just you forget to put it in, it's just silence. Okay, so for my homework, I was told to finish watching Pulp Fiction.
Yes.
And I did.
Wait, before you say anything, last episode you were halfway through and you said, I wonder if it's going to end the way I think it ends. Did it?
Yes. No, it didn't.
So you didn't think they'd all end up at the coffee shop?
No, not at all. Oh my God.
What did you think was going to happen?
I thought it was going to end with John Travolta getting shot because he shook me his hand. Yeah. Well, yeah, but he got shot he can get shot for that reason. First of all, I didn't know Bruce Willis had the storyline that he had. It's kind of nice to see people got their happy endings, kind of.
Yeah.
some people did. First of all, I love the movie. I think it's just incredible. Every scene builds on the next one, and it tells an out of order story in probably the most perfect way. Everything from Christopher Walken and the watch.
Have this watch up my ass for 3 years.
Then he died of dysentery.
Gave me the watch.
And I'm giving it to you. And then and everything from when he hits Marcellus with his car, so they get down with the gimp.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Zed's dead, baby.
Yeah. But like how do I put this? When they're down there in that weird dungeon sex thingy, I thought the movie was going to take such a different turn. Like when they start dragging Marcellus into the back corner and you hear what's going on, I'm like, ooh. But the movie does it, and Quentin Tarantino does it in such a way to where you don't feel uncomfortable. You start to like, because you know Marcellus is a bad guy, so when it's happening to him, you're kind of just like, oh, I'm sorry, but you have such a feeling of like, you start this pumping in the air when like Bruce Willis gets out, and then like he grabs the hammer and he's like, nah, and then he grabs the bat and he's like, nah, he gets the chainsaw, he's like, nah, and then he gets the sword and you're like, yeah. And it just feels, and then and then Marcellus shoots him in the groin. Shoots shoots that guy in the groin.
Zed, yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah.
So
Zed,
what's interesting is like, because obviously Quentin Tarantino, he got a lot of heat. Everyone's like, oh, that movie's so violent. But he said repeatedly, he's like, you know what? If you go back and actually watch it, a lot of the violence happens off screen, or like off the edge of the screen, and like the most notorious act of violence you don't even see.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not so much that it's violent, apart from when the guy gets shot by John Travolta in the car by accident.
Yeah.
And he just goes and sprays the whole car with blood.
You never see his hair. You never see the head like blow up. It's not like Scanners, like. Which, by the way, funny scene, man. Oh my god.
Oh, I just shot Martin in the face.
I jumped. He's like, oh, I shot Marvin in the face. Why'd you do that? I didn't mean to, man. It was an accident. And so, and then Harvey Keitel shows up, and it's like, whoa, he's in this.
Winston Wolfe, I solved problems.
Yes. Oh my god. And then Quentin Tarantino shows up, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. I want that robe. Oh my god. That movie just did so many things right. It's one of the best times I've had watched a movie in quite a long time.
You see why it's been so popular for so long.
Yes.
It's amazing.
It's so great. Oh my god.
And Tarantino as well for that, he said because it's called Pulp Fiction because it jumps around between the different storylines, and time-wise they're out of sequence. You know, like someone will die, but then it will jump back to their storyline later. And Quentin Tarantino said when he was writing it and putting it together, he was very conscious because he said, like, it's sort of like the audience has like an umbilical cord attached to the movie. And as soon as they're confused, that cord is cut. And he said with a storyline like Pulp Fiction where it jumps around, he needs to be very careful that it's not confusing. And it isn't at any point. That's why it's so good.
It really isn't. Because they tell the events. It's told in like, 3-4 different stories.
Yeah.
That do kind of it starts off with the diner and they're with Honey Bunny and the other guy and Ringo, Honey Bunny and Ringo, and then it goes to Vince and Jules, and then it goes to I think it's the watch. And then it goes to Vince and Mia, and then it goes to the watch, and then Bruce Willis gets introduced, and that whole thing with Marcellus, and then it all kind of accumulates, and then Bruce Willis, I think, what's his name, Butch, I think Butch, Butch just shoots Vince, and it's just done with, like, and they just don't even acknowledge it, and then it just cuts to the next story, and Vince is alive, and you're just like, okay, he's alive, great, let's keep going, and so the movie ends with Vince going off to get ready for his date with Mia, which we know. Wait, so would you say that the Bruce Willis story is the one that happens last chronologically, at least in the timeline of those couple of days that the movie takes place over?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so because Samuel L. Jackson quits in the diner. That's why Vincent gets shot, because he doesn't have him there to back him up.
Yeah.
So, but again, even if you're using the bathroom, don't leave your gun out on the kitchen.
That's what I said. I'm like, what are you doing, Vince? Like, what is...
That's a common thing with Vincent, though. He must have, like, had a bad bowel that day, because he's constantly like, I'm going to go to the bathroom. Well, he doesn't say that.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
So he must have had some stomach problems throughout that day.
Coffee. It must have been that coffee he drank. Yeah. Well, speaking of which, I want some of that coffee now. It must have been good coffee.
There's only one thing in Pulp Fiction I don't like, which is the scene where after Butch goes back on throwing the fight and he jumps in the cab, that whole section in the cab where he's talking to that girl.
Yeah.
Like, it's a good conversation. It's interesting, but it seems like it has nothing whatsoever to do with anything.
I think it's meant to develop Butch's character so that we know what he's doing.
I think that's pretty much all it is. It's just there to serve that he's kind of like, he's tough, but he's also kind of like, what's the word? He's kind of like a sociopath.
Yeah,
you know?
He doesn't have a lot of empathy.
He doesn't care that he killed the guy, which I guess it sets up for why a guy like that is then able to go and chop someone up with a samurai sword so easily.
Yeah, but to be fair, he was gonna.
Yeah, considering what was gonna happen.
I felt so happy when they gave Marcellus that gun, and they just had the conversation like, "We good?" And he's like, "Yeah, we good." I'm like, "Yes."
Oh, wait a minute.
Yes.
Wait a minute.
What?
No, wait a minute. I'm an idiot. You know why? Because that's his redemption, isn't it? Because the guy in the cab who cares nothing about nobody, he just would have walked right out that door and left Marcellus Wallace there, but he doesn't.
That's a
he
good
goes
scene
back.
too.
So it's to set up his turn. So he's okay. I'm an idiot. Quentin Tarantino, you are a genius.
Yes, it's
there is a point
look,
to that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
wow.
It's such a well put together, Samuel L. Jackson. Oh man, and the feeling you get when you realize that it's the same diner, like because when they showed the exterior of the diner, I'm like, where have I seen that diner from?
And then all of a sudden it's just garçon, coffee.
Yeah. Yes, and I was like, no, and then the line starts, and you're just like, I cannot wait to see what happens. Oh my god,
I love that bit.
And then
bit where just when they start robbing the place, and they're like, you get down there, and there's this panning shot over, I think, Honey Bunny across the diner, and you see everyone's panicking, and it's only there for a second, but you see you see Samuel L. Jackson sitting there, and even though it's just a second as his figure goes across the screen, and everyone else around him is freaking out, and he's just like a rock there. He's not the slightest bit concerned.
He's like, "Hey, this isn't the first time a gun's been pointed at me." Like he's so unfazed.
There's a lot of fan theories as well about what was supposed to be in the case. But
I think it's gold bars, isn't it? Like it's just. Well, I figure it was gold bars.
I think it's like whether or not the top falls over in Inception. Quentin Tarantino basically said it's just whatever you want it to be.
Okay. Well, like I know the actual thing. It was like a wire and a light bulb.
Yeah.
Was what was actually in the briefcase.
Well, some people. There's a fan theory that maybe it's supposed to be like Marcellus Wallace's soul, which sounds really weird, but. When Jules and Samuel L. Jackson shoot those guys in the beginning, remember when I do like a tasty burger, and then they shoot everyone.
Oh, man.
When it cuts between the two of them shooting, the same kind of glow that comes out of the suit is the transition between the shots. And like each time somebody gets killed, there's like a flash like that. Oh, and there's the bit with Marcellus Wallace, he's got like a Band-Aid on the back of his neck.
Yeah, that's never explained.
Maybe that's because like his soul was taken out through there, and that's why he's got the Band-Aid. Real reason is the actor just cut his head when he was shaving his head. But
I figured it was just like minor things. I always thought it was just gold bars.
Oh, okay.
I'm just like okay. I'm like it's probably just solid gold bars, which is why is the combination to the case 666. I think that's what it
was, wasn't it?
Yeah. So so it might be his soul. Where was I getting to? Oh, I think the weakest section of the movie is the Mia and Vincent scene up until she takes the heroin up the nose.
Yeah.
From that point on to the end of that segment is both funny and intense and like it's just when they don't want to when they're trying to figure out which one's gonna stab her in the chest and he's like I don't want to do it. And he crashes the car through the wall. But I feel like maybe that's the weakest part of the movie is whenever Vincent, because at that point, I don't know enough about Vincent or Mia.
Yeah.
I think to really be invested. The dance scene's great, and I can see why it's embedded into our culture.
Yeah.
It's a great scene, and now like whenever like I dance at parties now, I'll start doing that twist. People look at me and be like, "What are you doing?" But then the parents will be like, "I know what you're doing. I see you doing the Pulp Fiction."
Do you reckon anyone would recognize if you did the finger thing?
I'm sure, because it's like it's been. I know they did it in that movie Ants, with Woody Harrelson, that DreamWorks movie. So I'm sure I'm pretty sure the Simpsons have done it. The Simpsons
been done
does
plenty
everything.
of times since Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
You know what else has been done
So-
plenty of times since then? The Pulp Fiction style of storytelling. So many other movies
Yes.
tried to do it. None of them did it
Yes.
as well as that, though.
Let me think. I think a movie that did it, but did it in a very different kind of way, in a sense of that it wasn't used to kind of keep the movie flowing as much as it was to really try to confuse you, like a magic trick, was The Prestige, the Christopher Nolan movie.
Oh, yeah.
Which I love, and that is very much, it's told in different out of order in which it ends at the beginning of the movie, or it ends like in the middle, something like that. But it's told very much out of context or order.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
it's done
yeah.
really well.
I suppose.
And I know
yeah,
Mr. Sunday
guess.
Movies. I know the Weekly Planet guys have a problem with it. I know if they think it doesn't make any sense that it goes from being this practical magic to cloning, but I think it works.
Yeah, no, I think, talking about The Prestige, I think that works, because I listened to that podcast of the Weekly Planet, and Nick Mason didn't like the whole cloning machine thing, and I was like shouting at my phone, I was like, it's because, remember they kept doing that trick where you crush the bird in the cage, and you swap it and get another bird? And it's basically, that's what he was doing with himself.
Yes.
So it was,
kind of. I showed my friend Christian.
Foreshadowed.
I showed my friend Christian that scene. Yeah, I showed my friend Christian that movie for the first time a couple months ago.
Yeah.
We had a Christopher Nolan marathon, and whenever the second cat walks by, he paused it and said, "What? What?" I got his reaction on camera. It's perfect. It's priceless. He was like, it's like when your friend watches Empire Strikes Back the first time. You're just like, what? And he said, I said, yeah, I know, right? Cloning. He's like, clones. I'm like, yeah, dude, clones. And so we like to sit back and imagine what was it like to pitch that movie to Warner Brothers. And Christopher Nolan walks in and just says, Memento with clones. And then he just walks out, and they give him $1 million. They give him $20 million. But but that Pulp Fiction storytelling is Pulp Fiction's a great movie, and I'm glad I've seen it now, because I cannot wait to just walk by and just like next time I eat a burger, I'm like, this is a tasty burger.
Yeah. And it's fantastic. I mean, like, I've seen that movie so many times, but even now, just talking about it with that thing in the taxi, I discovered something new about it. So it's amazing that. And I
lots of cream, lots of sugar. That's how I like my coffee.
Yeah.
Lots of cream, lots of sugar.
Well, my homework assignment, going from the greatness that was Pulp Fiction to the Brad Pitt tank movie known as Fury that you wanted me to watch for some reason.
Oh, dude, you didn't like it?
Nope, I did not.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, why don't you break it down for us?
Well, it didn't do particularly well at the box office, because I had a look at how much money it made and all that. It didn't do very well, and I can understand why. Yeah, it underperformed. I don't think it was a total blowout, but it underperformed what they'd hoped. But anyway,
right.
Here's the thing: there's two different kinds of war movies you get. You get the ones like Saving Private Ryan, which try to be realistic, and they show the horrors of war, but they're also kind of historically accurate in many ways.
Yeah.
Guy who was a Vietnam veteran, he said that the beach on Normandy, he said that's probably the best thing in a movie he's seen that actually captures what it feels like to be in a firefight like that. So, like, you got those kind of movies. Then on the other hand, you've got stuff like 300, which is super stylized, very sort of propagandized kind of stuff, and it's not realistic at all.
No.
Fury tries to be both.
You think so? So?
Yeah.
Really?
Because
okay, well, I'll tell you what. Fury made $211 million, which is very profitable on a $70 million budget. Because even if you doubled that for marketing, that's 140. So that movie still made a profit.
Yeah.
So it definitely didn't bomb.
Tank. Yeah, but it underperformed.
I would say.
Yeah. Anyway,
Sure, for a war movie, yes.
I think, yeah, because it's also made by the same guy who made U-571, which, he took a historical story, something that happened, made everyone American because it was actually a British thing, and did it with the rah-rah propaganda feel. And he did this here with an entirely fictional story. And, oh man, it's like they wanted to like be realistic in like showing the horrors of war, but I was like halfway through the movie and I'm like, they're trying really hard to be like, war's horrible. And it's like they went so far that it was unrealistic, I felt.
You think so?
Yeah.
I thought they were showing that war sucks, and here's why. When they're telling the story about the horses, I thought that was a cool bit. What do you think about the performances?
Whatever performances, but look, this
really.
I went and did some research because I actually listened to a World War II history of World War II podcast. It's really good. I listen to that all the time. Whenever there's documentary on World War II, I love to check it out. I'm a bit of a history nerd about it. The way it's portrayed in that is nothing anywhere like what happened. There's so many instances where I'm like, that would not happen. Like, not with the Allies. Like, if that was the Russian front, a lot of that would be accurate, but not with the Allies. That wouldn't be accurate. Like, in Saving Private Ryan, there's that scene where they capture that German prisoner and they all have that big argument about whether they're going to kill him or not. And stuff like that did happen in war. Because like I've seen like people interviewed who did that stuff, and they're like, if you're behind enemy lines and you capture someone, you don't have the facilities to take a prisoner. You can't take them with you. You can't let them go because then they'll tell everyone. So you just basically have to execute an unarmed prisoner. That's just the way it was.
Yeah.
And it's like that stuff happened, and like Lone Survivor, that's another true story that was a similar situation.
I love that.
So stuff like that did happen. They tried to do that in Fury, but completely got it wrong because they've got it where the young kid in the team, for anyone who hasn't seen the movie, they're in a battle in the tank and he's never fired a gun before, so he doesn't want to fire and shoot and kill people. And because of that, the enemy get the drop and few of their soldiers die. So they capture a German prisoner and Brad Pitt puts a gun in his hand and slaps him around and basically forces him to shoot this unarmed German prisoner in the back. Totally different than what happened in Saving Private Ryan, because I'm like, they're behind enemy lines. They have to do it here. You're on the front line of your army and you've captured a prisoner. The rest of your army is literally 5 minutes down the road. It's like, you don't need to shoot this guy in the back, and you shouldn't shoot the guy in the back under these circumstances. You'd say, just hold on to him, wait 5 minutes, we hand him over, and he'll go back to the base that we've already shown at the start of the movie has thousands of soldiers. Like, having Brad Pitt force a guy to do that, completely wrong historically, I felt. If that was the Russian front, absolutely, because Stalin said no prisoners, so they didn't take any prisoners. That would make perfect sense. Soldiers raping young girls, Russian front, makes perfect sense. Maybe it happened with the Allies, but not the way it was portrayed there. I just... Sorry, I'm ranting.
Okay. I know, no. Listen, I see... Sorry, I think I hit my table. I
just feel like when you're portraying something historically like that, you need to get it right, They wanted to show the horrors of wars, but at the same time, they wanted to do the whole propaganda type thing, and it was kind of like a weird combination, and I just didn't like it at all. And at the point where Brad Pitt tells the young guy to basically coerce that girl into sex, at that point I'm like, okay, he's officially the bad guy now. And from that point on, I was like, they're all bad guys. I hate all these guys, and you're supposed to cheer for them at the battle at the end. I'm like, no, I want you all to die. You're terrible soldiers.
Right. Okay.
I think it was kind of insulting to real soldiers too, that they would act like that. I was like, I didn't think they would, The Russian front, they would. That was a whole different story, because they wanted to pay the Nazis back real bad for what they did. But American soldiers wouldn't act that way, or if they did, they'd be in trouble, I reckon. Anyway. Sorry, I'm ranting.
Okay. No, this was your homework. So you
like a while back, I talked about the reason I hated the remake of Red Dawn was because it was like war from the perspective of a 5-year-old. You know, he doesn't understand. He's just like pew pew shooting baddies and doesn't understand there's consequences. This was like war from the perspective of not a 5-year-old, but maybe a 12-year-old who's like horrors of wars, but doesn't understand. Yeah, but there is still rules of war, and not every soldier became a psychopath because they were in a war zone. Right. They still had a moral code. Anyway.
Okay, well, anything else before I start talking?
No, I think I'm done.
Okay, good.
I just felt it was offensive, historically and to the actual soldiers.
I see. I just didn't see it that way. That's a good perspective on things. To look at it as an insulting thing to these soldiers. I felt going back to the when Logan Lerman has to shoot the soldier. I thought that was a good setup to show that these people, especially Brad Pitt, that they're all kind of too far removed. That they all have been, I don't want to say not spoiled. They've all been soured by war.
That's right, but
and that war has had
but even that doesn't work in the context of the movie, because it's like you could say Brad Pitt's maybe his team, they've been through so much that they're like that, but when he's forcing him to shoot that German soldier, literally making him pull the trigger, there's like 100 soldiers there, and I'm like, not one of those guys is like, what are you doing? This is not what we do. And I just didn't buy that. Like, maybe you could say Brad Pitt's team was all a group of psychos or whatever, cutting off people's ears, wearing them as necklaces.
They definitely are. They definitely are all a group of psychos.
Yeah, they were, but like the whole 100 of the soldiers there, not one guy.
I see.
Points out the obvious problem.
I think the performances are great. I think everyone does a real standout job. I think this is probably the best I've seen Michael Pena in a movie.
Yeah.
Because he's not doing Michael Pena. He's not doing Tower Heist over and over.
He's in everything at the moment, isn't he? He was in Martian. He was in Ant-Man.
He was in
Then I put on Fury and he's there. I'm like, wow, this guy's in everything at the moment.
And I look, to each their own. Look, he's got a kid. His kid loves these kind of movies. I'm glad he's doing them. But I think Fury was him standing out. I think Logan Lerman is just fantastic. I think Brad Pitt's good as always. John Bernthal, who is Shane from The Walking Dead, what's his name? Brad from Wolf of Wall Street.
He's going to be the Punisher in the Daredevil TV show.
Yeah. Too. Or have you seen that? Poster,
Let her watch. Let her watch.
Let him watch.
Yeah, Daredevil. Going to beat up this guy. You can watch.
Best line for that movie. Let him watch. No, but I thought he was fantastic. I thought he was probably the D-baggest of them all, in my opinion. Yeah. But I thought Shia LaBeouf was so good as just this 1940s womanizing, dark, broken guy, but yet a Bible hugger at the same time.
Womanizing?
And I thought
he was womanizing?
Well, he was, I would say, womanizing in the sense that he disrespectful to women is, I guess, maybe a better phrase.
I didn't remember that. Anyway.
Just maybe just in the way that he spoke about Logan Lerman's girl and the way they all treated them. Point being, he's just a despicable guy.
But yeah, you're right. His performance in that was really good. And you know what? Shia LaBeouf is a good actor. He is. He is a good actor.
Maybe he's a terrible person, but he's a good actor.
And yeah, he did a good performance in that. But we mentioned last week, he said he pulled out a tooth, actually ripped out one of his teeth to match that character. Probably didn't need to do that. I mean, it was a good performance, but now you're without a tooth forever for a performance.
Yeah, I
probably
feel
not
like
going to be remembered.
Yeah. I think everyone's great in it. I think David Ayer directs the action really well. I think I felt the intensity of it, and it maybe it is offensive to war, but so maybe it's offensive to the soldiers, maybe it's offensive to the historians in the story, but in many ways, so many war films are in many ways very inaccurate to how things actually happen.
Yeah.
And if you can take that aspect out of it and look at it as a film from a filmmaking standpoint, and that's how I look at a lot of films that are based on true stories. People always say, like, when I criticize them, like 42, the Jackie Robinson one with Harrison Ford. I criticized it because I felt like the movie was very slow in parts, and people told me, they said, well, it's a true story, you can look at it that way, and I said, yeah, but you're still making a movie. You were still entertaining people, you know.
Yeah.
Granted, entertainment has different aspects, whether it be, happy, sad, or whatever. And so Fury, from a complete entertainment standpoint, from a complete filmmaking standpoint, everyone's acting is great. The second act is pretty slow when they go into the woman's house. I'll give you that. But it's shot really well. The action's great. The score is fantastic. I forgot who did the score, but it's a great score. And you really do feel maybe the violence was too nailed on the head too much.
Yeah, well,
maybe it was.
I was thinking afterwards. I was like, why did that bother me so much? I was like, because I watched Inglourious Bastards, which in no way is historically accurate, and I was like, why is it that I was able to enjoy that as just a work of fiction, but this somehow bothered me because it was historically accurate? And I think it's because it was trying to present itself as a realistic example of what happened there, when I really didn't feel it was. Anyway.
Okay, I can see that. Stephen Price did the score. I just looked it up on IMDb. Stephen Price, who also did the score for Gravity.
Yeah. The music was quite good, actually.
Yeah, and I'm a big, as you know, I'm a big guy on movie scores. I love me a movie score.
Yeah,
it was one of my favorites of last year.
Really?
I really love that movie.
I found it interesting that after all the time where they're talking about how terrible the SS is, which they were, and how they kill any SS on sight and all that, which I'm fine with because it's the SS. Then at the end, it shows that, hey, not all the SS are bad, because one of them, spoiler alert, let the main character live when he could have killed him.
Yeah.
What?
Well,
movie?
well,
what do you?
yes.
Come on. If you want to do that, do that with a normal German soldier. Don't do it with an SS officer. You know what those guys are like? Ugh. Sorry.
Well, were they all SS officers? I thought he was just a regular German.
No, because he said
soldier.
it's
because he was like 12.
Because Brad Pitt says it's an SS battalion, and that's why he's like, I'm going to stand and fight, even though that's totally stupid and I shouldn't. Well, I guess he did have to hold them back. So yeah, that's okay.
I understand. But I can see.
Come on.
Look, every movie's got problems. First of all, you don't like Terminator Genesis, so you don't get to talk.
Well, I don't like Terminator Genesis. I did like it.
Oh, excuse me. You like Terminator Genesis, so you don't get to talk. Okay.
Well, you hated insert some popular movie here.
Jurassic World.
Yes, there you go.
Titanic, Jurassic World, Winter Soldier at a Time, Days of Future Past. Yes.
Oh
yes.
yeah, Winter Soldier.
Yes.
I can't believe you didn't like that.
Listen, it's gotten better over the years, but it's kind of like prison assault. It gets better over time.
Well, why don't you go watch Fury then, huh?
Because I will. I got it at my house. I will watch Fury. You know what? That's my homework assignment. I will watch. No, I'm not going to watch Fury.
So anyway, I've
seen it enough. Okay. So to our
feature
next
presentation.
Bond. Yes, our feature presentation.
I was actually going to do a quick breakdown of season 1 of Fear the Walking Dead, but it's already been like over an hour, so I bet not.
You should. I mean, I don't. I got time. I mean, it's only 10 o'clock.
I'll just say
here.
it in like 1 minute or whatever.
Okay.
Basically, the first episode was probably
it sucks.
The slowest, most boring, most weakest pilot episode of a show that I think I've ever seen.
Yes, preach it, Bandit. Preach it.
And I watched episode 2. Yeah, picked up a little bit.
Morons.
And then I binged
the whole world.
I binged the rest just because I thought maybe I'll do, because I realized season 1 was only 6 episodes, so I thought I might as well watch the others. It does pick up and become much better in the second half, specifically in the last 2 episodes. But the weird thing is like I won't spoil too much, but my thinking was the whole point of Fear the Walking Dead is it was basically going to show how the zombie apocalypse took over everything and filling in all that stuff that where season 1 begins of Walking Dead, it sort of shows how we led up to it while what's her name was in a coma or whatever. And it doesn't really do that.
No. Okay,
'Cause,
listen.
like,
Here's what it should have done. Here's what it should
it
have
skipped
done.
over that.
Yes.
It's like it
You have-
goes
no,
from this
listen,
is
you have
before the
6
zombie
hours.
apocalypse, and
Yeah,
then
okay.
it puts the characters in. I guess not really a spoiler. It's like 2 episodes where a military has created a safe zone around them while the zombie apocalypse happens everywhere else. So by the time they leave that, we're in The Walking Dead, and I'm like, you've skipped over the only unique thing that this show has, and what I thought was going to be the whole point of it. Now it's just The Walking Dead with
marketing
less interesting
campaign-
characters. You don't have Daryl.
The show.
That's not interesting.
Okay. Listen, here's what the show should. The show is marketed as this is what happens when the zombie apocalypse first
Yeah.
occurred, and look, I'll give the first episode the first how slow it is. I'll give it that. I'll give the benefit of the doubt because that is entirely true. The world would not immediately go to crap
right, yeah.
if the zombies were that slow. Like if it was like World War Z zombies, maybe, but if it's like Walking Dead zombies, it wouldn't happen that fast.
I agree. That's why I
But-
thought, I'll watch the second
by
episode. You got to give the
episode
first one a
3
pass. But yeah, sorry, go on.
And so you have 6 and 6 hours, 6.5 hours, to really what you could have done is that maybe you could have taken each episode and maybe either focused on a character that we know of the show and tell their story because Frank Darabont who did the first season of Walking Dead along with like not Shawshank Redemption. Did he do Shawshank? Yeah, he did Shawshank along with Shawshank Redemption and Green Mile. His plan was in season 2 to go back and explain what was going on before the virus went bad, and like he was gonna maybe tell the story of that guy that had the grenade in the tank that Rick finds in episode 1.
Ooh.
Maybe go back and tell the story of how the helicopter got into the mall and how the world really fell down. So maybe you do kind of an anthology stories of where each episode tells a different character, a different family.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
But each episode
it's about this
you're
stupid
showing-
family.
You're showing, yes,
Ugh.
but each episode shows a worse aspect of the show of the apocalypse, from which the episode 6 is basically everyone around you's dead. So
I know, and it's like, why can't, like, you do feel The Walking Dead. If you're retelling the apocalypse, you don't need to focus just on this family that doesn't know what's going on, because we already know what's going on. So maybe have them as like one story thread, but then you could be following maybe some people in the government who know what's going on and their plans. Maybe you could have a character in the military and him getting orders to sacrifice civilians that
and
he
not
doesn't
one
understand.
that creepily makes out with the daughter. No, I don't want to do that. No.
That'd be good, because that way, like, we could cycle between other storylines. We don't have to focus on these whingy wife and bratty kids and I don't care. Just send the zombies to kill all them.
Such a moron. I'm so sick.
I like the main
of
character because I
AMC.
like that actor. I've seen him in a lot of stuff. But yeah.
Cliff Curry, I think his name is. I like the mom. I think the mom's great. She's in Gone Girl. I am so sick of AMC taking a group of zombie survivors and sticking them in one location for hours upon hours of my life that I'm not getting back. They've done it for 5.5 seasons, and I'm sick of it. Don't do this again. And they're making money by doing it. And it's such B-shank. And they finally get out of it with Walking Dead Season 5, the second half. And then they put out Fear the Walking Dead, and it's the exact same BS all over again. I'm not...
And you know what is, like, The Walking Dead, a lot of the great stuff in that, I don't know whether it's in the comic or maybe the comic borrowed, but in the book, World War Z, which is completely different to the movie. Take the movie out of your head when I'm talking about the book. Like, literally, it's totally different. Because
that's what my friend tells
the book
me.
World War Z is a collection of short stories from people from all different countries around the world. So, and a lot of the stuff introduced in those stories is great stuff that's used in The Walking Dead, like the whole idea of using a prison to start a colony because you're safe from the zombies. The whole idea of like a katana sword being the best weapon against zombies because it doesn't create noise to attract more. Like all that good stuff comes from those books, and there's so much. Just like if you wanna tell a story about the zombie takeover, there's literally 20 or 30 stories in that about people when the zombie outbreak came and how they dealt with it. There's one in Japan about how it's like this guy in an apartment block and zombies take over the apartment block, and the whole story is him just sort of, he's like a computer nerd that never goes outside, and then he has to climb down outside the building from balcony to balcony to work his way down. And it's about like how he gets through. It's like It's amazing. I was like, make that one of the storylines for an episode. Just a guy trying to escape this building as zombies.
But that wouldn't be realistic, and that wouldn't be real. Like, shut up.
But see, that's the thing. Is like
God.
They put them in these, like you say, AMC just puts them in an area that's easy to film. Something like that's easy to film. It's just in one building.
Yes.
It's just try something different.
But
please.
AMC would flesh it out with like philosophical talks about life and character, and then they would make $50 million because an episode gets 20 million views an episode, which is they're getting money for doing stupid nonsense. And they need to fix it.
It's the Fast
because...
and the Furious of the TV world. That's what it is.
Oh my gosh, yes. It's the Frozen of TV. It needs to die.
Mind you, I still do watch The Walking Dead because there's characters I like, and it's one of those shows that, you know, when I just want to relax at the end of the day or whatever, I can just put it on and, you know, so I know you have your problems with it, and so do I. But
the second half of season 5 is great. I think like the second half of season 5, that's when they find Alexandria. I think everything in Alexandria is great because you introduce an element of these people that don't know that the apocalypse is happening. Yes. And that's a good element to introduce. And you have this good mix of characters who have been through too much. You know, that's a good element. That's something new that we haven't seen.
Absolutely.
That's cool.
Yeah. And see, like, they're introducing new stuff, like that weird cult that has, like, the W on their head and all that sort of like, that's interesting.
The Warriors.
You know, Fear the Walking Dead is not interesting.
Yeah. No, it's boring. It's a boring piece of Wonder Bread with I'm so sick of AMC taking people's money. I can't do this.
This was supposed to be a quick, like, 1 minute sum up, but it's turned into a rant from both of us, so that's okay.
Can you just put this on your channel and just put this like 5-minute rant of Fear the Walking Dead?
You know what? All right, I will, because the reason I finished the season was to do a video, so I'll do a video on this. Yeah.
God, I hate that show. The daughter is incomprehensibly stupid. But we have to move on.
Well, what about the drug addict son? He's stealing medicine from this sick guy, and then the sick guy dies. I'm like, is that his fault? Is that because the guy didn't get his medicine? Is that why he died? Never explained. I guess not. What?
I can't do it. This is what I hate about AMC. So they fire Frank Darabont after season 1 because he wants more money. After The Walking Dead was a huge success and it got a lot of money, AMC fires Frank Darabont because he wants a higher budget because AMC is going to make him do 13 episodes instead of 6. So Frank Darabont says, "Okay, can I have a higher budget?" They said, "No, you're fired." They hired Scott M. Gimple, who I think did some minor shows, and they said, "Can you do this on a low budget? Stick him on a farm where nothing happens."
Is that why they spent so long on that damn farm?
Yes, because in the comic, the farm is like 2-3 issues. But that's 13 hours on that farm.
I gotta say,
and they said,
considering, I think he did he was obviously painted in a corner. I think he did the best he could under those circumstances of being forced to keep them on his stuff.
Absolutely not.
Come on, that could have been Fear the Walking Dead on a farm. But at least they had more interesting stuff.
Season 2 is so okay. So this is an episode of season 2 of The Walking Dead, right? Where they find a walker in the well. And the whole episode is them trying to get the walker outside of the well. And so that they can drink the water. But when T-Dog tries to drink the water, they knock the canteen out of his hand saying, "Don't drink that." I'm like, well, is the water not safe now? Because that's always been bleeding and pooping in that water forever.
Didn't it rip in half when they tried to get it out? So they're like, well, the water's contaminated now. I think it was anyway. By the way, Fear the Walking Dead writers, I assumed you were going to do that. And that's how the zombie virus spreads, because the zombie falls in a dam or something, and the water goes out to like 50, 100 people. But no, you didn't. So how did it spread? You're supposed to explain that. Stupid Fear the Walking Dead.
Stupid AMC. I'm so sick of AMC.
Yeah. All right, so there we go. Should we talk about James Bond?
We're sending AMC to Zeb's dungeon. That's what we're gonna do now.
And now our feature presentation.
So for this week, we decided we'd cover a couple of James Bond movies that link in to the new series, the Daniel Craig one and the Spectre coming up. You had You Only Live Twice. I had
You Only Live Twice.
On Her Majesty's Secret Service. And these movies came out back to back, actually. Your one came first.
Yes.
And then my one
67.
was attempting to be sort of like a reboot of it, which failed dismally, but we'll talk about that. So
Yes.
do you want to talk about your one first? Since chronologically?
Yeah, let's get into kind of the backstory of the movie. This was going to be your movie was supposed to be Sean Connery's fifth movie, but they had to try really hard to get him back to do my movie.
Yeah. Because
they weren't paying him anything, which respondably so, because these movies were making more and more money every time. Like Goldfinger was such a huge hit, and then Thunderball came out and was again a huge hit. Which I don't like Thunderball, but whatever. And then, it's boring. And then, then he comes back for You Only Live Twice, and he says, well, can I get you more money? And they're like, no, you can't get any more money. That's by Sean Connery. And so they said, no, you can't get any more money.
That's a terrible Sean Connery.
And so he quit. Well, you know what?
You have to talk a bit like this. It's okay to hit a woman, just as long as you use an open hand. He said that, by the way.
That's why I don't like Sean Connery. But my movie...
Well, he slaps around plenty of women in Bond too.
That's my problem with Sean Connery's Bond is that I feel like Sean Connery's personal beliefs and what he thinks about women kind of seeps its way into that character, and I'm not a fan of that.
So overall, what? Because we should say you finished watching this like only a few minutes before we actually went to start recording. So you've just seen
That's why we're recording later. Yeah, we were recording later because I was taking forever to find the movie. Yeah. I chappied it.
You mean find it legally, of course. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course. I went to my local Blockbuster and I got it. It was great.
They said you're in luck because we have 20 copies right here because it's such a popular thing.
It's in that ET bin with all the ET games. And so I just dug one up and it worked. It was a Blu-ray.
That's right.
I really
it's
enjoyed
good,
the
isn't it?
movie.
It's good fun.
Just because it reminds me of like it's weird how Bond Mission Impossible actually is, especially with these newer movies like Rogue Nation. I've seen Rogue Nation 5 or 6 times now, and after watching You Only Live Twice, there's oddly enough a lot of connection between the Mission Impossible franchise and You Only Live Twice, and that there are some really epic stunts, and there's a scene where he's scaling this building, or not the building, he's scaling this cave, and it's pretty intense, and there's a lot of fighting, and I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good introduction to Blofeld.
Yeah.
And I can really see how if you were to maybe remake this as a modern James Bond movie, you can really do some cool stuff with this. You can really tell a conventional but at the same time really well put together story. Sean Connery's great. Yeah. A lot of the Asian actresses were good. The action's good. There's a helicopter chase fight that's really well done. The music by John Barry is great. The song by Nancy Sinatra is great. It's shot really
like
well.
The action music.
Yeah, it's
really Bondy. I love that. So that's why I said in a video I did, I was like, if you want to know sort of what more the like classic, older, more sort of cheesy kind of James Bond, that's probably a good movie to check out. It's got the bad guy dropping someone into a pool of piranhas. Goodbye, Mr. Bond, all that stuff.
And then when he throws the henchman in there, he's just like pulling out the teeth. I'm like, I put on my sunglasses.
Yeah. When he has his classic fight, the henchman who's like, there's always henchmen, but then there's that henchman who's like bigger, and he has a thing where he fights them, and
it really is the classic Bond formula.
Yeah.
When people think of James Bond, they probably think of things from this movie, which is weird because most people will probably go to Goldfinger, but Goldfinger I really wouldn't say has kind of the classic Bond tropes. They all really come to fruition in this movie. You got the villain, stroking the cat. You got
I think
the secret base in the volcano.
Sorry, go on.
No, I'm just saying, like, the base in the volcano, the Bond girl he sleeps with, the Bond girl he sleeps with dies, it's another Bond girl.
Oh, yeah, that's right. His base is secret volcano layer.
Yeah,
There's so much
think,
stuff in that movie that people joke about when they say James Bond. Yeah, because I think like Goldfinger, that was earlier on. The franchise was still kind of finding its footing, like Fast and Furious, I guess, in a way. Yeah, we keep going back.
Yeah,
but it's like by the time it got to You Only Live Twice, it really knew what Bond was, and that's why I reckon it's the pinnacle of Bondiness. Before it started to become too silly.
I think there really might be a connection there with that Inspector, because in the trailer we see kind of like this dried out volcano, and my first thought is, I swear to God, if James Bond throws a rock in that volcano and we hear a metal clink, I'm gonna scream. That's gonna be so cool, because they do that in the movie, because like you think it's lava. And then they throw it and it's metal. I'm just like, oh man, this is a volcano base. Oh my God. And like it. Yeah.
Did you like the evil villain's plan?
Yeah,
it makes sense. Doesn't it?
It felt very like it's modern.
I say that because Blofeld's plan in my one makes absolutely no sense and is terrible. But I'm just saying that as contrast for mine.
Well, I mean, like, if you guys that don't know, the plan is that Blofeld is kidnapping the Russian and American spacecrafts in order to turn Russia and America on each other, so that they start a nuclear war, World War III. Which, if you're like, that sounds like X-Men First Class. That sounds like bloody Moonraker. That sounds like Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol. I'm like, that's because it is. He's sending out spaceships. That's sort of. It kind of like opens up like a big mouth, this ship, and it just kind of like swallows other spaceships. And he's doing it to both Soviet and American ones, so each side thinks it's the other side doing it. And it's implied in this that he's kind of doing it on behalf of the Chinese. It's implied, but it's not really a huge thing. But I know he's working with the Chinese. It's a very Asian movie, but listen, the movie's not perfect.
Certainly not. But it has ninjas attacking the volcano layer.
Yeah.
That was great.
Cool. That was cool.
Sorry.
When you sail the ninjas on the hill, I was like, yeah. But no, okay. But let's get to the elephant in the room. For starters, all the green screen is obvious.
Atrocious. Yeah.
There's a scene where Sean Connery and this chick have to walk across to a volcano, and she walks the whole way there in a bikini. I didn't buy that. But let's get to the fact that the guy says, "But first, you have to look like an Asian." So they get Sean Connery, they give him plastic surgery, and then like they give him cosmetic surgery. He looks like an Asian man. They wax him, I think at least, and then they put like this weird Asian wig on him.
It's kind of like it sort of just looks like a General Zod haircut. And I was like, that looks like something that a racist white man might think a Japanese person's hair looks like.
It looks like a grandpa like squinting his eyes. That's really all they really did for this movie. Which it works in the context of the story, but when you single out, you're like, that's not right.
I mean, they do it because they want him to infiltrate the volcano lair, but at the same time, just get one of the 100 other Japanese spies that you got working in that ninja base. Can't they do it? Like, they'll blend in.
Yeah, and they know he's there. They know he's there because people try to kill him at the bloody Japanese base.
And when he walks into the spaceship, he's wearing a giant helmet anyway, so they can't see his face. So it's like, it doesn't really serve much purpose to the story.
Though, I think that might be one of the best title drops in a movie ever. You only live twice, Mr. Bond. I thought that was the best.
Oh, yes, that's right.
That was so, because Bond, he's like, you're back. He's like, yes, I've grown a habit of it, actually. And then Blofeld's like, you only live twice, Mr. Bond. And I was like, yeah.
And you know what? That began the trope of James Bond faking his death at the beginning of a movie, which I think recently Skyfall was the latest one to redo.
Skyfall, yeah. That I felt like, this feels very Skyfall. To because the opening after Skyfall is the funeral and the obituary to James Bond and whatnot, and then he comes back. But this one was done more of a MI6 knows, or is it MI6 or MI5? The British intelligence knows that he's dead, and they're the one that fakes his death, which is, I think it's a cool scene of how they get him back. They take his body and they drop him at the bottom of the ocean, and then they have British intelligence come and cut him out and stick him in a submarine, which, with M and Moneypenny, it's all the classic Bond stuff that I think Austin Powers watched You Only Live Twice quite a bit, I think.
He's got good gadgets. He's got the cigar that shoots a bullet for some reason.
Yeah.
It could save your life, this cigarette.
The car's not in it, which is weird. But they do have this kind of cool helicopter thing. And it's kind of like a Wes Anderson thing where they explain it in like this weird jump cut
showing it
where
being
like the
put
different
together.
components keep like popping. Yeah, and I'm like, what is okay? And then it's like this weird Cat in the Hat style helicopter that takes off. And look,
don't they call it like a weird
really
name, like Little Bobby or something like that, or what do they call it? There's some weird name for it.
Sammy, I don't know, something like that. I forgot, but
it's funny because the Japanese are like, you serious? You actually going to go on that thing? And he's like, oh yeah. And they're like, it looks like a toy. But then by the end of the scene where he fights off all those other helicopters, you're like, yeah, that's pretty cool, that little thing.
Yeah, and I think that might be my favorite part of the movie, besides when he finally gets to talk with Blofeld, because Donald Pleasance, who's also from Halloween, he plays Dr. Loomis, I think. Donald Pleasance,
So
just
good.
fantastic as Blofeld. Like, oh my god.
Yeah.
I don't know what movie did they kill him off in? Was it For Your Eyes Only? It was a while after. I
You
can't
see him
remember.
get dumped into like this weird silo thing.
Smoke
So
stack,
you presume he died, but
yeah.
you can never presume anyone dies in a James Bond movie. So,
But I'm really excited to see how this, because I feel like this and Spectre are going to be kind of similar.
How similar
in the
do
sense
you
that-
reckon? Because it's pretty much all but confirmed that Hans Lander,
Christoph Waltz,
yes. So it's
Hans Lander. That the bear Jew, yes, he is going to be.
well, he's the Jew
going
hunter,
to be-
actually, is in Inglourious Basterds. Christoph
Excuse
Waltz,
me.
yes.
Sorry.
My apologies, Christoph
Yes.
Waltz. I know you're not really, the Jew hunter.
Yes.
It was just a role you're playing, but
I apologize.
it's all but confirmed that he's going to be Blofeld. How many of the classic Blofelty things do you think Christoph Waltz is going to do? Do you reckon he'll have the scar?
I think it'll end with him getting the scar.
He's got that same kind of suit thing that he wore.
He's got the coat. He's got the same dialect. You know, it was me all along, James, the author of all your pain. I'm like that's a Bond saying right there. The author of all your pain. Like that's, you know, and if you look in the trailer, you see like a dried out volcano. I'm like, that's the Spectre base. You know, they have the same Spectre room.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm sure he has buttons that can make people fall into chairs. And
Do you reckon he'll
and-
have a cat and stroke it? That might be a little too silly for Daniel Craig Bond.
I don't think. I think they'll have a cat in it. I think maybe he'll just be like sitting like on a couch.
Yeah,
or something.
it'd be good if you see in his house.
They'll be subtle.
Yeah, it'd be good if
you
you see in his house, like maybe he's got a stuffed cat, like the cat died a few years ago, so he's had it stuffed.
Or like maybe just a portrait of the cat.
Yeah,
like,
just something like that would be
on
good.
the wall.
Yeah.
Something solid so the Bond fans are going like, ah ha ha. But I don't want a lot of cheeky Bond references in this movie though. Like I don't want to like I'd like to maybe see some gadgets, but I don't want
Yeah,
like
I
a
want
lot
some
of
gadgets too. But I think
I really love Skyfall, which is why I think
really? I
Skyfall,
hated
my opinion.
Skyfall.
Really? You want to get into this? I'm
Hang on,
cracking
just
my knuckles.
let's
Want to get
just
into
wait
this?
just a sec, because I was going to say that Spectre is like, it does feel from the trailers that they are trying to go back a little bit to the more, well, not silly, but a bit more of the classic Bond, let's say.
They're going back to the Connery era, not
so
the Roger
I don't
Moore
think
era.
it's.
They're going
So I think there
Connery.
probably will be more sort of like nods, like the cat or whatever, in the Spectre. I certainly hope so. And Batista being like the henchman, he's a little bit more of like,
Mr. Hinks. I'm so excited. Okay, but before
Mr. Hinks.
I
See,
just
that's
wanna
a
say
great
something.
Bond villain name too for the henchman.
So let's get into the whole you like Terminator Genesis but hate Skyfall nonsense.
Hey, look, everybody hates Skyfall.
So what? I love Skyfall.
It's probably. I think that might actually be the second worst Bond movie ever made. Actually,
behind what?
Well, the worst is the one that I saw on Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Wow.
Yeah. We'll get to that when we get to it.
I've
But
never
yeah, I
seen
think
it.
Skyfall's
Okay.
probably one of the worst ever. I mean, the
Okay,
villain
what do you
is
hate-
good.
What do you hate so much about?
Yeah, the villain is good. And that's pretty much it. Everything
It's
else
shot
is ridiculous.
The villain's good. It's shot really well.
It's not
Everyone's
shot
great
well.
in it.
The story is completely ridiculous. Daniel Craig lacks
It's not shot
all
well.
charisma.
Roger
I mean,
Deakins
he
does
never
not
had any
shoot
charisma
it.
in the first place. Somehow he's managed to go from 0 charisma to less than 0 charisma. It ends with him...
Wow.
Like, it starts with him being depressed, even though the last movie didn't really do anything to set that up. Ugh.
Huh.
You know, it's ridiculous.
He's depressed because he got shot by MI6.
But big deal.
So,
like, he should have been depressed at the beginning of the second movie because the love of his life got killed in Casino Royale.
He is depressed at the. He is depressed at the start
Yeah,
of the second
you know what?
movie.
Well, no, not really. It starts with him having that car chase.
Yes, he is.
He's depressed.
He's depressed and angry.
But anyway, look. The reason they did that is because they're trying to do a "You Only Live Twice." Where he's off the grid. No one is he dead or is he not? It doesn't work. Okay, you suck,
Listen.
Skyfall. And that whole Home Alone ending. Are you kidding me? His real name is James Bond. So every time he introduces himself to a supervillain, he's telling them his real name. I'm not a spy, but I don't think you tell people your real name.
Why is there a 2-meter wide hole in the Death Star?
Oh, this is
that
worse
can
than
blow
the
out?
Death Star hole.
Why? Can,
The plot holes in this.
It's worse than the Death
You know,
Star.
at least the Death Star only had one hole in it. This movie had a bazillion holes in it.
Star Wars has multiple holes in
Yes,
that
but
movie.
it makes up for it with lots of other great stuff. Skyfall doesn't. It sucks.
So does
Everything
Skyfall.
about it sucks
It
except
makes
the
up
villain.
with it. Wow. Okay. Okay. So you don't like the really cool fight with the sniper where it's well shot and has silhouettes.
Terrible. Hated it.
You don't like the intense scene where he has to hunt the sniper down. You
Nope,
don't like
terrible.
the action sequence where he has to make it to the parliament before M gets shot.
No, because that whole plan is stupid.
You don't like M's death scene.
It's all
You don't
stupid.
like the
Everything
ending.
sucks. The action is terrible.
You're stupid.
And like they give him the Aston Martin just because, like, see this classic Bond, you have to like us. No, we don't. Write a good story.
Wait, Bandit, do you smell that? I smell Nick Mason. I think Nick Mason's gotten to you. Uh-huh. Oh, okay.
And why
Okay,
why does the Bond movie start with him being out of practice? You know,
What do you mean?
when he comes back, he can't shoot straight and all that. And I'm like, dude, you haven't been out of it that long. Is this your last movie? What are you doing? Why are they setting that up? What's the point? You know why they're doing it? Because they don't know how to do anything else, and that's just the generic cliche you go with. God, that movie was terrible. I'm getting all
I
mad
love
goose
that
about
movie.
it. Ugh. It wasn't as bad as On Her Majesty's Secret Service, though.
Or Moonraker, or Die Another Day, or The World Is Not Enough. Come on, dude.
Yeah, you know what? Those were bad, but they were kind of lovable bad.
Thunderball.
Skyfall was
Thunderball.
just... Ugh. Anyway.
Thunderball, dude.
Anyway, we'll
Bloody Quantum of
we'll talk about that a
Solace.
bit more
Come
in
on.
a minute. But is
Oh
there
my
anything else you
God,
want to say about
okay.
You Only Live Twice? But...
I think it's the quintessential. I think it's one of the quintessential
Yes.
Bond films, in that it really set up that
Yeah,
formula.
I think so.
And I really enjoyed it.
So after
alright.
this, after that movie came out, Sean Connery wasn't going to come back for reasons Trey mentioned. So when they decided to make On Her Majesty's Secret Service, the decision was made to switch it up and do something new. Now the interesting thing is, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, I think, is the worst Bond movie ever made.
Wow.
And
You've seen Die Another Day.
I think
yes.
it's worse than that. Okay.
Okay,
I think it's
I'm not-
worse than Quantum
okay,
of Solace
okay.
too. Like that's how bad I think it is. It was totally unsuccessful when it came out. But what's
So wait. So you don't think there's been a good Bond film since 2006?
what came out? I can't even remember. What came out in 2006?
Casino
Oh
Royale.
yeah, that was the last good one. Yeah.
Really? Okay. All right. I can take that. At least we can agree that that's a good one.
But what's interesting about On Her Majesty's Secret Service, though, they tried to... Everything they did to try to reinvent the franchise failed back then. But interestingly, everything that failed back then worked with Casino Royale. So, like, there's so many similarities between this and Casino Royale. And I find it fascinating that it was like a lot of the right ideas, but at the wrong time. And okay, first of all, they picked George Lazenby, totally unknown actor at the time, and a lot of people still consider him to be an unknown actor because he hasn't really done anything else other than this. He's an awful actor. He's an awful actor. He got the part because he snuck into, I think, the offices of the director. And the director was so impressed because he's like, you know, I'd love to get a shot, blah, blah, blah. I'm just not a good actor. And he said, what do you mean you're not a good actor? You fooled everyone in my office and they just let you through here. So he's like, because he sort of did like a spy thing to get the job. So, he's not a good actor though. He's a terrible actor.
Well, there's lying and then there's acting. Yeah. So,
And so that was like the first mistake this movie made. The second mistake is You Only Live Twice. We talk about it being the pinnacle of the classic kind of Bond with all the over-the-top villains and gadgets and that. They felt that it was starting to get into silly, or if it continued in that way, it would get into silly areas, which it did eventually. So they thought, we're going to remove all the gadgets. We're going to go back to dark and gritty. We're going to make it totally serious. Again, a lot of this is Casino Royale. It ended up working for that.
Yeah.
But the audience didn't know they were doing that. And Casino Royale, it actually went back to, it did it as like a reboot, an origin story, but people didn't know. And Blofeld is in it. Yeah. And Blofeld is played by a totally different actor. And it's so like James Bond, he's going through for the first half of the movie. He's like, I'm trying to find Blofeld. Who is he? Tell me who is Blofeld. And you're like, dude, you just saw him in the volcano layer. Yeah. Like, what do you mean? And then they meet each other like for the first time. And they're like, hello, nice to meet you. And Bond's undercover pretending to be someone else. So the audiences were like, who's that guy? That's not Blofeld. And if he is, why doesn't he recognize him? Yeah, he knows who James Bond is. So that kind of ruined everything. But yeah, it's a terrible movie. It's it just doesn't know how to pace action scenes out throughout the movie. Like, I mean, everybody knows a movie like James Bond, you start with an action scene, have some exposition, character bits. Maybe you put in a car chase then you have a bit more other stuff. Then maybe you throw in a fight scene. You know, you space the action out, you know, to keep people interested. Yeah. No, that's not what On Her Majesty's Secret Service does. It opens with the girl who ends up to be the love of his life, which he ends up marrying at the end of the movie, and then she ends up dead. Again, Casino Royale did a similar thing. Took that. Right. The woman he really loves, dying, blah, blah, blah. In On Her Majesty's Secret Service, he was killed. She was shot by a woman in the back of a car who was being driven by Blofeld. So Blofeld was responsible. Yeah. So in Spectre, they might make it that Christoph Waltz was responsible somehow for his girlfriend in Casino Royale. They might try to do something similar.
I don't think I want to see that.
Well, they might, because the Spectre logo that they use is like a bullet hole in cracked glass. And it's from the same shot of like the bullet hole that came through the windscreen and hits his wife at the end of the movie. And George Lazenby, probably the worst piece of acting I've ever heard. His wife gets shot.
Really?
He's like, it's Blofeld, let's go. And he jumps in the car and he looks over and sees she's been shot. And and he like...
Wait, you should put this in.
I will. I'll insert the acting, right? But he touches her on the shoulder. He's like, no. And she kind of like falls over and her face goes right in his lap, which looks like something else. And this cop, this random cop for some reason, pulls up on a bike next to him. And George Lazenby, who's holding the love of his life in his hands, in the worst acting ever, just says,
it's all right. It's quite all right, really. She's having a rest. We'll be going on soon.
Like that's how he says it. Like
that could have
even
been
me reenacting it there probably had more emotion. And that's the finale of the film. I couldn't believe it. It was, I'll put the times down.
Huh. See, now I want to go watch it because
no, you don't. You don't want to watch it. Trust me, you don't. It's real bad. But
because like a lot of people really hold this film up to a kind of a higher regard in the Bond mythos.
Yeah, it's
and so I want to get my own taste on it. I'll look at it eventually.
Like it's a weird mixture because it's a terrible movie, but at the same time, a lot of stuff that happens in that is sort of echoed in later movies. So it's weird that it's like
Right.
the worst movie, like so boring, especially in the middle.
Right.
It's like the worst movie somehow has inspired a lot of extra stuff, like, which I've written down a list. We'll go through it in a bit. But the point I was making, it starts with like him saving this girl who becomes the love of his life. She's walking into the ocean. She's about to drown herself. He's on vacation. He's not on a mission. And he just runs out, saves her. Goons come out of nowhere and start beating him up. And the girl runs off. And he says, "This never happened to the other fellas." Ha ha ha. Because the girl runs away from James Bond. Get it? Yeah, whatever. All right. Then,
right.
Then there's like about 2 minutes. More goons attack him. There's about another 2-3 minutes. Goons attack him for a third time. We're only 10 minutes into the movie. And I'm like, you don't have 3 goon attacks within 10 minutes of the first movie. And then the reason they did it, the reason they stacked all those action scenes is because for the next hour and 15 minutes of the film, no action whatsoever. And it is so boring. I found myself wishing they would throw in another goon attack, please, just so that something happened. And then we have one of the most underwhelming James Bond finales ever.
A woman gets shot in the face.
Well, when Blofeld, he's on his lair that's at the top of like this Swedish mountain, very James Bond style, I guess. He has a mansion on top of there. And they lock James Bond up in a room which is easily escapable. Again, very James Bondy. And he skis down the mountain. All the goons ski down the mountain with him. Oh, man. And it's a skiing scene and then a car chase and a foot chase. And it goes on forever. And it ends like... So you've got like all these fight scenes at the beginning. A huge stretch of boringness. I actually... Because I was... laying down and watching it, I actually had to sit up straight because I almost fell asleep halfway through. So I made myself sit up because I didn't want to have to, play it through again. But basically, the movie ends, right? See, I could barely even get my thoughts together because it was so bad. But the movie ends, Blofeld, he reveals his evil plan to Bond, which unlike the one that you saw in You Only Live Twice, which makes sense, it's clear, you understand it, and it's worthy of a Bond villain. This one, he's making a kind of bacterial virus that attacks crop and livestock. So basically, if he releases this virus, it'll cause famine because it'll kill off all the crops, it'll kill off all the livestock.
Oh. So it's Mission Impossible 2, right?
Yeah, well, I think that was just a virus to kill people. But anyway...
Wow. A virus is a virus.
But the weird thing is, it's like, he tells you his plan that's only about, I'd say it's about half an hour before the end of the movie. Thing is, there's nothing in the movie before that has set that up. It's just been Bond trying to fail Blofeld. There's no scenes where you see, like, thousands of acres of crops that have all died from this virus, so you understand how dangerous it is. And apart from that one line where he says, "This is what I want to do," it has nothing to do with anything. It's like, it doesn't feel real. There's no threat. You don't see it. You need to feel like the villain is going to do something that must be stopped. And at the end, like, it's apparently this threat is so real that all the governments just immediately say, "Yes, we're going to give you whatever you want. Whatever you want. Just don't release this virus." What does he want?
$1 million.
Yes, does he want $1 million? Does he want $1 billion? Does he want a country of his own? What does he want? He's got the world by the throat. He could ask for anything he wants. What does he want? He just wants amnesty from his previous crimes. And that's it.
What?
Really?
Dude.
You're Blofeld.
Seriously?
You're Blofeld, and the world is literally willing to give you anything, and you just want them to erase your criminal record. That's it. Really? That's our Bond villain? Like, it's terrible. And like, Bond says to him, he's like, we need to go there and we just need to raid the base. And he's like, well, we can't do that because he sent the virus out. These girls have it in all these corners of the world. And he's like, yeah, but he's controlling them with this weird hypnotic thing that he sends a transmission to them through a radio, which is a whole other weird thing. And he's like, so if we just raid the place so he can't send that signal, we're going to be okay. Then we can track down the girls later. He's like, no, Bond, we're not going to do it. So Bond just jumps in a couple of helicopters with some gangsters that he's met, and they just go and raid the place, and that's it. It's so stupid. And it's like, really?
Okay.
The whole world's willing
Okay.
to give this guy what he wants, and all you need to do is just get some guys with guns to fly up there and just shoot people, and that's it. It was terrible. Terrible. Anyway, that's enough ranting.
But Bandit, now imagine this. Now imagine it's the end of the movie, and it's Blofeld. It's in Blofeld's car, and the woman has the gun pointed out, and then you hear a shot go off, and then you just hear, "Oh man, I shot Tracy in the face," and then Blofeld's like, "Whoa, why'd you do that?" And she's like, "Well, I didn't mean to. It was an accident." That would make the movie better, right? Let's think about it that way.
Well, this did, but anyway, so the movie's terrible, but strangely, it has had a huge impact on the rest of the Bond franchise. In Casino Royale, the whole thing with poker, that's from In Her Majesty's Secret Service. He has there's a big scene of him in a poker game, and you remember in Casino Royale, he says to the girl, he's like, wear this sexy dress so that way when you come in, the other players will be focused on your plunging neckline rather than their cards. That's in this movie too. That's where the Bond girl comes in and he's distracted. So it's like a winking to that. Bond wears the weird white sort of puffy shirt that Austin Powers wears.
Yeah.
It's that comes from it. In both ones, Love of His Life Dies, Casino Royale and this. In both ones starts with him drowning a guy in shallow waters because he drowns a guy in the ocean at the beginning.
Yeah.
So Casino Royale is basically a better version of this. So it's just interesting to see that they had all the right ideas but done in the wrong way, and it was just at the wrong time.
Well, because do you feel because On Her Majesty's Service was trying to be a serious film in a time where serious films weren't a thing, as opposed to Casino Royale, where it came out after Born Identity, and suddenly every action movie ever, spy or not, had to be Born Identity.
That's right.
I
think that's right, because On Her Majesty's Secret Service made a serious Bond movie at the time people expected it to be cheesy, and Casino Royale made a serious Bond movie at the time people wanted it to be serious.
Which is why I think Kingsman is so refreshing. You've seen Kingsman, haven't you?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I think Kingsman is so refreshing. I love Kingsman.
Like Colin Firth himself says in that movie. It's do you like James Bond movies? He's like, they're all a bit too serious for my taste now. That's kind of right. I think Spectre's going to be a bit more Bondy.
I don't know. I think we might get. I think we're going to get.
Sorry, go on.
No, well, because I know there's this podcast I listen to called James Bonding, and they've been speculating for a long time that they think that Spectre is going to be on Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Oh, really?
And yeah, they think that's where it's going. It's not going to be that, maybe for your eyes only. So they think because a lot of it's set Alps and all that, and so I think that. I'd like to see if they're going to go dark. I want them to go all the way with it, because I think my only problem with Skyfall, with the exception of the villain's plot, because that's I think that the tone of classic Bond and Casino Royale tone doesn't always mesh really well. When they first open the garage and the Aston Martin DB5 pops out, I don't think that works. However, when the bad guys blow up that car, and then Bond blows up the house in response to that works. That feels like something a classic Bond would do. So you see it. So I'd much rather them go, let's make an all serious movie, or go like Kingsman. I think when they reboot it, because the Bond series is always about ripping off the series before it.
That's right. Yeah.
So I think whenever they do reboot it, hopefully with Idris Elba, they'll probably go in a more Kingsman fashion, because Kingsman was a success.
I don't I want them to keep it serious as well, but maybe saying classic or silly, maybe that's the wrong word. Maybe I just wanted to have more of that style of James Bond, And Spectre does seem while it's not going full silly, it does seem like they're trying to have that style back. That's one of the reasons why they got Batista as the henchman, because he kind of fits more the mold as the henchman.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I am optimistic about it.
If they could do Spy Who Loved Me with Casino Royale's tone, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like then maybe they can do like that'd be like the pinnacle. Which I think a lot of people, I think what they were trying to do with Skyfall, they were trying to, but I think it didn't mesh very well. But if they could do that, then you could have really one of the best Bond films out there.
I wonder what Blofeld's plan's going to be in this one, because hopefully it's not a virus that wipes out crops that we never see.
It's going to be something convoluted with computers.
I'd rather they just do what they
that's
did in,
every.
Like, You Only Live Twice, where he's just trying to start a war for reasons, you know.
I've always had this idea for a Bond plot, because this is what I think of when I'm bored. I'm just like, what if like Bond has to stop a series of planned assassinations that cause a war or something? I don't know. So that way he's globetrotting, and he's always too late to stop the assassination, and each one's bigger than the last one. Like one of them is a prime minister, another one's like a president, another one's a king. But it's whatever. It's just a thought I had, but. Yeah, so what if,
So there you go, guys. If any of you are like, oh, maybe I'll check out on Her Majesty's Secret Service to watch it. No, don't. Instead, go to YouTube, type in Random Rob James Bond, go to Random Rob's channel. He did a really good breakdown of on Her Majesty's Secret Service, where he outlines way better than I did in my weird rant about, how it affected the James Bond, its reception and all that sort of stuff. And apparently George Lazenby, like he refused to accept any more James Bond work after that, because he's like, nah, this thing will die out. No, George Lazenby, it didn't die out, but you did.
Yes, it appears he went to the Sean Connery School of Hindsight. Yes, one went. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I gotta ask. Let's ask some James Bond related questions before we move on to the deeper questions. I have one question. First of all, what was the first Bond film you remember seeing?
I think it might have been Moonraker.
Ooh.
No, wait, no, it wasn't.
Okay.
What was the one where it ends with them all having like a scuba diver fight, and there's like two armies having. Like Moonraker ends with like the good guys and the bad guys all shooting out in space, and there's all these lasers going everywhere.
Well, I know Thunderball is really set underwater.
It might be that.
Did you see it in theaters?
But it's like people like shooting spear guns at each other underwater and stuff. It was kind of cool.
Oh
actually.
yeah, I think that's
that was my first one.
Yeah, Thunderball. Was Connery in it? Was Connery in it?
It's been so long.
Because that was 65. I remember.
What was the first one you saw?
I don't remember when it came out, but well, I remember it was 2012. Yes, I'm young. People, get over it. Skyfall was coming out, and it was like a week before. And I had some family from Louisiana come to town, and I said, I'd never seen a James Bond movie, and they said, "You had never seen James Bond?" I'm like, "No, sir." And he's like, "I gotta show you this one first." And so my uncle comes in and pulls out a DVD of Live and Let Die and sticks it in the DVD player. And so my first ever Bond film was Live and Let Die. And it just blew my mind. I was like, whoa! And with the crocodiles, and I was like, whoa! And all the blaxploitation, all the black people around, like, whoa! and you never forget the first time whenever he walks in, he's just like, my name is Bond, James Bond, and the theme kicks in, you're just like, oh, this is so cool.
That was the Roger Moore Bond,
and then I went.
Yeah,
that was the very first Roger Moore Bond. So that's one of my favorites, just because it holds sentimental value. After that, then there was a marathon on TV. So after that, we watched Spy Who Loved Me and all that, and then we went and saw Skyfall opening night on Thursday. That was a good week for me. So Skyfall is my first one in theaters, which is maybe why I love it so much, because seeing the gun barrel on the big screen for the first time in your life is really something that you never forget. True. Yeah. Seeing a Bond intro on the big screen for the first time in your life is something you never forget, because those are always. I'm so excited for the Spectre intro because I like the song. I don't know if you've heard the song since our last podcast, but I like the song, and I really hope.
Sort of like a, and I don't mean to say this, to be derogatory when I'm saying this. I'm just saying, like, as a sort of a new generation fan, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 16. Oh, I'll be 16 on Tuesday. Yeah.
Wow. I knew you were young. I didn't know you were that young.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
all right.
dude.
That's fine.
Yeah, dude. It's called reading books.
If Daniel Craig decides to make Spectre his last one, what actor do you reckon would be good to sort of be the next James Bond after it? I mean, I know we both like Idris Elba, so he's a choice.
Well,
You reckon like Hugh Jackman?
I haven't seen.
Maybe Tom Hardy or
I think
Colin
I don't
Farrell?
think Tom Hardy should do. I think Tom
No.
Hardy.
Not Colin Farrell, Colin Firth.
Hey man, I think Tom Hardy would be a good Bond henchman or a Bond villain. He'd be a great Bond villain. But I think Hugh Jackman would be a great Bond. I don't know if you've ever seen him host the Oscars, but that man's all
Yeah.
charisma.
Well, he's
Get
going
The
to
Rock.
finish
No,
up with
kidding.
Wolverine soon. So, playing Bond is,
but Craig
being
is,
old's not an obstacle to playing Bond, and he still looks in great shape.
No, Craig has one more schedule, which is supposed to come out in 2017. Excuse me.
Oh no! So he is doing another one.
Jackman
after
Jackman
Spectre?
would work.
Oh.
I think so. Yeah, I think he's contracted for 5. The rumor is that Spectre is going to be the Spectre, and then Bond 25 is going to be a 2-film story arc, kind of like Casino Royale.
That's a
and
bit
Quantum
disappointing
Solace.
because I never really cared that much for Daniel Craig.
Really?
Yeah, just because like I'm an older generation Bond, and for me, when I hear James Bond, first thing that comes to my mind is charisma, and that's the one thing that Daniel Craig does not have. I'm sure he's a nice guy,
Right, that makes sense.
but it's James Bond is supposed to be the fantasy version of what every man wishes he was. He's funny, he's charismatic.
Yeah.
Women just automatically love him no matter what he does. Daniel Craig
I
is
thought he was pretty
none of those
charismatic
things.
in Casino Royale. I thought Casino Royale he was pretty charismatic.
Well, I mean, because
I thought him and Vesper had that great chemistry.
I don't think so at all. I mean, it kind of works in it kind of works in Casino Royale that, like, when he's trying to when there's scenes where like women are like falling for his charms, I never really bought that he's a guy that can actually do that. I just thought, well, that's just.
But then again,
script,
that might not be what they're going for nowadays. I think they might be going for that Jason Bourne, cold face, just monster.
And that was one of my problems
running through
with having Daniel Craig and turning him into Jason Bourne diet, basically.
Yeah.
Because Jason Bourne's more hardcore.
Yes.
Because it's like...
Yes, that is the truth.
Yeah, Jason Bourne's unique, but there's only one Bond, and it seemed to me at the time like they'd taken everything that makes Bond unique and special and stripped it away and replaced it with this garden variety Jason Bourne ripoff, and I just didn't like that very much. But, what do I know? Because Casino Royale was hugely successful, and I do think that's one of the best James Bond films for years. But, you mentioned Nick Mason.
Yeah.
He said this franchise has kind of limped along since Casino Royale, and I agree with him. That movie was good. All the others were second was
Skyfall
terrible.
holds a special place in my heart.
Like I said, I hated it. So I'm still waiting for another good Craig film. I just hope if this isn't please just leave.
I don't
Daniel
think
Craig.
you're gonna like Spectre.
Please just leave. Do something else.
I don't think you're gonna like Spectre, dude. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm optimistic because it looks more Bondy.
But it's the same writers, same directors, same actor,
and all the behind the scenes stuff.
So
is
it's gonna,
I guess.
Yeah, so like it's like if they made another like Transformers movie, and you'd be like, well, it's the same writer and same director, so, I feel sad because you're not gonna walk in being like, this is gonna be good. You're gonna be like, oh, this is gonna be Skyfall light.
It depends if like the more classic Bondiness compensates for all the Skyfall style nonsense writing. I mean, that's I guess what it will hinge on.
Okay.
But I understand a lot of people.
Well, I'll
like
tell you
Daniel
what,
Craig,
that was
fine, so.
okay.
I just don't think he's anywhere near as charismatic as any of the others except for George Lazenby. He's definitely more charismatic than that guy.
Well, then we need we'll need like a Hugh Jackman, or someone to be that just spews charisma.
Yeah, that's why I want to see
screen,
Well, I want to see Idris Elba because he's very charismatic. That guy.
Oh yeah.
Like if he's out there charming a woman, you're like, yeah, that's probably what he does in real life. He's Idris Elba. That's probably what he does.
Today we are canceling the apocalypse after this martini. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so either him or maybe Hugh Jackman or
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure if I thought about it, I'd
Yeah.
probably think of others. But
Well, I mean, I think Henry Cavill could be good, but I like to see him as
here's
Superman
one.
first.
Here's one.
Okay.
What about
Yeah.
Tom Hiddleston?
Ooh.
Do you reckon him being Loki would ruin it? Or
no, no,
that
no.
might work.
That man is all
yeah,
charisma.
that could work.
Oh man, he'll get crapped on until the movie comes out forever. But that man, because everyone's gonna be like, oh, they're putting Loki in the. What is Iron Man gonna show up in James Bond? That's what they're all gonna say. Even like that's the first thing Screen Junkies is gonna put out on their Twitter.
Loki is gonna be James Bond. That could work, I reckon, because he's definitely a good actor. No doubt about that.
You just blew my mind, man. We're studying religions in school, and we're learning about like Hindu like religions and whatnot. And we just learned that I learned where the Force came from originally. My mind was blown. I was just like, what? Wow.
They invented the Force from Star Wars?
Let's all campaign for Tom Hiddleston to be, huh? Yeah, it all came back to Star Wars, man. Let's all campaign for Tom Hiddleston to be James Bond.
I always thought the Force was more Buddhist. I mean, Buddhism and Hindu are very similar, but yeah.
Well, yeah, they both want to do different things with enlightenment. But we're not going to talk history here.
You know, when I went to Nepal, because I did some like hiking.
Yeah.
I did some hiking around the Himalayas when I was in Nepal. Yeah, it was just
cool.
a little bit around the edges.
Yeah, you like Terminator Genesis, you don't get to say anything. I
was eating some fish at a small South American village, and then this happened.
Okay, yes.
No, I always say that, like.
Yeah, I was doing some sit-ups. You know, I let him watch.
And I had this great idea for this movie.
Yeah, keep going,
Thank you, Michael Bay. Yes. But no, I was like, I always say that. Technically it was, but it was just the wimpy bit around the very edges for like 3 days.
Yeah.
But technically,
yeah,
I can't say I've hiked in the Himalayas because I have. But yeah, when we were there, we went to a lot of the temples around there. And what a lot of people don't know is that the Nazi swastika actually already existed in Hindu mythology and like religion before that.
I learned that in history.
There's all like the statues of the Buddhists sitting there like cross-legged, like with their hands sort of the palms of the hands open, just sort of holding them up, and they've got like swastikas. And like some of the other people in my tour group are like, "What? What is that?"
Like Hitler made this.
Because like some of the other like the statues that were low, a lot of them had like their faces smashed off because like Hindu invaders in the past, or no, Muslim invaders. They didn't like it, so they'd smash the faces off them. So they thought maybe it was like some anti-Nazi thing in the Himalayas and smashed the statues. Anyway, welcome to the religion podcast, everyone. Religion Mania.
Yes.
That's what we're all about.
Let's talk Catholicism.
Up next week, we're talking about transubstantiation. Yes.
Transubstantiation. Next week, the Bible. Is it real? Find out.
Yes, because we could single-handedly settle that dispute here. No problem.
Okay. All right, Ben. I'm pulling out.
Pulling the ripcord. We're done. This joke.
Yes.
Do you want to do some...
Mm-hmm. Get that long cane that puts you off stage.
Do you want to do... you want to do listener questions?
Let's do listener questions.
Excuse me. I'd like to ask you a few questions.
On our Facebook page, for you guys that don't know, you can do listener questions on Bandit's Facebook page and on Bandit's Twitter. He sends out a post probably the day of or the day before, maybe 20 minutes before. He'll make a post saying, hey, recording the podcast, ask questions where you guys can ask anything related to films, comics, or Star Wars. Just those three, nothing else. I'm kidding. Any questions?
Mind you, if you want to ask us about religion, feel free.
Yes. Is heaven for real? Well, we'll explain that next week.
Ask Paul Walker. Oh, see what I did there?
Oh my! Put it in that timestamp. Put it in that.
I'll just file that in the bad joke files. Yeah.
Yes.
They do that on the Kevin Smith podcast. Whenever there's a bad joke, they're like, file it now in the bad joke files.
Yes, file Tusk into the bad joke file.
File that entire movie.
The entire...
File your whole career in there.
And yeah, the last 10 years of his career is file that into the whole bad joke file. This is hilarious. Can't stand Kevin Smith. Good podcaster. I almost swore. Terrible filmmaker.
But what if one day he's like sends an email, he's like, "Hey guys, can I join your podcast?" We say no.
I'd cry. I tell him no.
No, then you have to be like, "Oh, we love you so much, Kevin Smith. Tusk was amazing."
Yes. I'd be like, listen, I don't like Tusk or Cop Out or Red State or Clerks 2 or Zack and Miri, but I think you do good on podcasts. And then and then he'll be
Chasing
like, okay.
Dogma was not as bad as I thought, though.
I'm like, you made a great movie. Mallrats was what 20 years ago. Okay. No, on Facebook, Starheart Fallen Star asked, from the information we had so far, what could be the downfall / fatal mistake of Star Wars The Force Awakens? Maybe selling too much toys, too focused on the sequel, something like that.
I think what about if... Yeah, I think probably the fatal mistake for that would be going the Star Trek Into Darkness route. Too many references to the original.
Let's say the same thing.
And not enough focus on, like, real new.
Trying to remake Empire Strikes Back. That's my biggest concern.
Please don't do that.
My biggest concern is that J.J. Abrams, you have Lawrence Kasdan, good writer. But my biggest fear is that he's going to use his Star Wars fandom to try to remake Empire Strikes Back. I don't want that. I want a new story. I don't want... I don't want Episode 8 to be, okay, well, it's a story about how Finn has to go off and train with Luke, and Luke has to help him train to be a Jedi, and then Finn goes back to fight Kylo Ren, and then meanwhile Daisy Ridley and Poe Dameron along with
Luke
BB-8 and Chewbacca.
Kylo, I am your father. Ew.
I kind of think.
That'd be a shock moment, wouldn't it?
I think Han's Kylo's father, but whatever. One of those three is a Skywalker. I know it. Kathleen Kennedy has actually confirmed that the story is going to be about the Skywalkers. Yeah. One of those people are Skywalkers, and I think it's Daisy Ridley, but it's Daisy Ridley and Kylo Ren. But yeah, so also besides J.J. Abrams not being a very competent filmmaker, I think the biggest issue might be too high expectations. Because there's a critic that I follow, they're the Schmoes Know, and one of them is named Christian Harloff, who I think I look to as an idol in many ways. I strive to have what he has. But one of his biggest problems with Age of Ultron is that it wasn't as dark as he thought it was going to be. And I never want a movie to... I never want a movie to fail because someone thought it was going to be something else. And then you got something like a movie shouldn't be knocked down a peg because it wasn't what you thought it wanted it to be. Like a movie...
You have to ask the question with that, like, is the onus then on you for expecting something different, or is it on them for... Like, that Age of Ultron trailer made it look like it was pretty dark. So is that on them or on the person?
Age of Ultron is a dark movie in many ways. But it's dark in the way that all Marvel movies are dark. The Iron Man 3 trailer is a dark trailer. Every Marvel movie has a dark trailer except for Guardians of the Galaxy.
But, I mean, there's Marvel dark and there's DC dark.
yes. Just like there's strawberry shortcake in this Fight Club. Yes. Yeah.
Exactly.
I see. So I'm worried that fans are going to be expecting so much that they don't get, that they're going to be like, fans are going in and they're expecting Empire Strikes Back, and when they don't get it, they're going to riot.
I don't know if they will though, because I think they expected Empire Strikes Back when the prequels came out, but now that they have come out, I think people have got a bit more of a balanced view of like, this could be good or it could be bad. So.
I think they did. They did before that trailer came out. when the first trailer came out, people were like, "Okay, I'm still a little worried because of the prequels." And then that second teaser came out, and I've yet to hear even like a guy like the Amazing Atheist, who's a YouTuber, who was very mixed. And then that second trailer came out, and now he's on board. So I really do think that second teaser was so well crafted, maybe one of the best trailers ever. That it really has swayed just about everybody that they're gonna go see this movie, and they're expecting it to be good. Like I'm nervous that if it turns out to be like I don't know, Jedi, then people are going to be like, and I know I'll be that way if it's disappointing. Man, just that might be the biggest problem. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I think the biggest problem is fan expectations. Yeah.
Yes.
I envy.
Okay. Do you have a Twitter question?
Well, I don't envy. What's the word? I sympathize. The other one. I sympathize with J.J. Abrams. He's got a real difficult task ahead of him. But hopefully he'll do well. I got a question here on Twitter. Says, best director...
Who's it from?
From Blue Glasses. He asks,
Yeah.
Can we ask totally random movie questions? If yes, best director of our time, alive and working right now, not retired / or dead. Maybe it's recency bias, but I'm thinking Quentin Tarantino.
That was my first thought. My first thought was Tarantino. I'm biased towards Nolan. I think Nolan has done some just fantastic work. I don't think he's made a bad movie since Insomnia.
Even that was kind of good.
And that's like one out of what? Yeah, even that wasn't like complete crap. It was just weird, a weird kind of movie.
What about Martin Scorsese?
But I haven't seen. Scorsese's
he's good,
great,
but he's not at the level of like a Nolan or a Tarantino.
Well, just because like most of his movies that have come out now aren't as good as his movies that came out years ago. Like Wolf of Wall Street is one of my favorites of all time, as we know.
Yeah.
But if you ask most people, they won't compare it. They won't say it's as good as King of Comedy, Goodfellas, Raging Bull.
True,
So like even The Departed, which won Best Picture, I think, is still many people not his high class movies. So I wouldn't consider Scorsese maybe the best modern director. Just in general, I think Nolan, Tarantino, Brad Bird, I think is a great modern director.
Sorry,
No, it was just Iron Giant, Incredibles, Ratatouille, Mission Impossible 4.
I was just as you're talking, I was thinking, and I was like, well, he doesn't. He says alive and working right now. Does Steven Spielberg count?
Yeah,
he's alive certainly, but I suppose he's still working.
He's got new
producer.
He did Lincoln.
Oh, that's right.
He's got a new film coming out. He's got Bridge of Spies coming out with Tom Hanks.
Okay, I'd say Spielberg then. Like, even though like his movies that comes out now, like Nolan, his movies have bigger impact, but it's Spielberg. He's like one of the heavyweights of the whole industry.
Well then, in that case, you can say it's Scorsese.
Scorsese's not
right.
Yeah, Scorsese's amazing, but you can't say he's what's the question? Best director of our time.
Well, if you took all directors from the last 30 years of filmmaking, from 1985 on, or we'll say last 40 years of filmmaking, 1975 on, and you have a Mount Rushmore of directors, you don't put Scorsese on there? I put Scorsese
Mount Rushmore,
on there.
We'd have 4. Yeah, it'd probably be Scorsese,
so I put
Spielberg, probably Tarantino. Maybe not Nolan.
And
we need to see a bit more
Nolan,
work from
but,
him. I think, but I don't know. People.
Oh, well, you didn't like Dark Knight Rises, so I can understand.
But I think there is a bit of. You can sort of feel in the ether that the tide is turning a little bit on Nolan. Like, people make fun of his overly complicated plots and all stuff like that. So, yeah, I think if in his next couple of movies he's able to reinvent himself a little bit, then we could put him on Mount Rushmore.
Yeah. There are other good directors out there that I'm completely blanking on. Pete Docter. You may not recognize the name, but you may recognize his work. He's done a lot of Pixar films. He's done, in my opinion, 3 really great Pixar films. He did Monsters Inc. He did Up, and then he did Inside Out. And I know you weren't the biggest fan of Up from one of our first episodes.
You won me over as you were talking about it. I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, and Monsters Inc. I think is a really great one, and Inside Out is just fantastic.
I think Monsters Inc. is actually kind of underrated. I think it's...
Yeah, but it's not in the conversation anymore, unlike like a Finding Nemo or a Toy Story.
That's a brilliant concept that they came up with. So I think, I think that's kind of underrated.
Oh yeah,
Monsters Inc.
Yeah, Pete Docter, I think might be a really good modern filmmaker. For now on, I'm always looking forward to a movie that he's doing. I think he's doing one about the Day of the Dead, the Mexican festival. I think he's the one that's doing that one. So I'm excited. It's either him or the guy who did Toy Story 3, one of the two guys. But yeah, that Pixar one. Speaking of which, you know what? Different tangent. Never mind. Okay. Let me find another question on here. Good question. Unless, did you have a final thought on the directors?
I'd probably have to. Like if I was forced to pick an I'd probably pick Spielberg just because of the body of work that he has, which is kind of not fair compared to other actors that maybe haven't been around other directors that haven't been around as long.
Right. Oh wait, well, dude, well, we gotta mention Tommy Wiseau, M. Night Shyamalan, Uwe Boll, and Michael Bay. I mean, those are some of the best out there right now.
That's a different Mount Rushmore right there. That's Mount Flushmore. That's what it is. Okay, sorry for that joke. I'll file that joke in the bad joke file as well.
Oh, you were just bombing today. You're bombing worse than... Man, you were doing worse than poor old Marvin. Okay. On Facebook, Stephen Higham asked, are any films too sacred to be given the remake/reboot treatment, like so many have this year?
Too sacred to be given the remake treatment? Probably Citizen Kane.
I don't. My first answer is no. No film is not. No film is sacred enough.
I think Citizen Kane is, because people look at that as like the greatest cinematic work ever. So nobody would dare to remake it.
I think I think of movies that, because my opinion on remakes. If you can tell a new story and put it in modern context, and go for it. But if I think of a movie that people, if you tell them that you're going to remake it, people are going to lose their minds. There's Citizen Kane. There's Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
There are a couple that people are just Godfather.
Yeah.
There are a couple that people are just Jaws. There are a couple that people are going to be like, you can't do that. But I think it's that mentality of you can't do that.
Aren't
that I don't
they
like.
actually remaking Jaws?
What's up? That's right. They are developing that. I'm excited.
I don't know if it's...
We talked about that. We talked about that.
I know a lot of people are outraged about it. I'm just kind of curious to see how they're going to do that now, because that was lightning in a bottle that you can't replicate. So I'm just going to be interested to see how they try to tackle it at all. So yeah, but I definitely do think that there are some movies that are considered sacred, and probably, actually, it might only be Citizen Kane, I think.
Okay.
You probably couldn't remake Birth of a Nation. But it's not because it's sacred. Sorry, I'll file that as well.
You can't remake Song of the South.
I don't know what that is, but...
It's a really racist Disney movie about black people and watermelon. Okay. He also asked, were there any remakes that infuriated you?
I don't know. Did
Total
Recall
adaptations
infuriated me?
That have infuriated me.
Yeah.
Really, Total Recall. Yeah. Well, I don't know if you talked about Last Airbender. That's not necessarily a remake. It's an adaptation of that cartoon. But that is such a that movie sits with me the wrong way. Okay. Do you want to ask another Twitter question, or do you want to? Should we stop the questions? We're running at 2.5 hours.
There's maybe one or two more. How about that?
Okay, yeah. Right. We'll bank the rest of them, because these are some good questions today.
Robert Coralijo, sorry for butchering your name, which I undoubtedly did, asks, what villains would you like to see in each DC movie coming? Wonder Woman, Flash, Justice League, Batman. So I guess it means a villain for each of them. First of all, Wonder Woman. She has a villain called Cheetah, but I would rather see Wonder Woman fight Feora from Man of Steel, because she's still in the Phantom Zone. If you can get her out of the Phantom Zone, Wonder Woman versus Feora, that's what I want to see.
How contrived? How contrived
Well,
would that
she's
be?
still there in the universe.
Yes, she is. I personally like to see her fight Ares. That's just my personal thought, because that way you can tie it into the Greek,
the God of War
kind of mythology. Yeah, and you can do kind of God of War meets Wonder Woman. Batman, you need to do Red Hood. I don't care how you get to it, you need to do Red Hood. Don't make Joker Jason Todd. Do the Red Hood storyline, because that is such an integral. That's such a good.
It
good
is, but
story.
it's
That's a good
still tied
animated
into the
movie
Joker
too.
thing. And what about like one of his more sort of superpowered or kind of cosmic villains that you don't see much, like maybe Clayface?
I first thought it was Clayface.
Yeah.
I
Just
don't
for
know if we
something
can do
different, I like
Clayface. I don't think we can do Clayface yet. Clayface, I think, because Clayface doesn't really come across me as like a head villain. He's always seemed to be was more as a henchman, kind of like Killer Croc.
We've kind of already seen a lot of his villains, haven't we? We've seen
see
Joker, Ra's al Ghul, Scarecrow, Bane. We've kind of seen all the big ones so far.
I'd like to see a more comic book accurate Riddler and Scarecrow. Mr. Freeze. Oh my, please redo Mr. Freeze. If you could do Heart of Ice on live action,
he's got a great backstory, Mr. Freeze.
Yes, you can really do some great stuff with Mr. Freeze if you take a good time with it.
Mind you, it's going to be hard to erase people's memory of what killed the dinosaurs. The Ice Age.
Stay cool, build boy. But hey, people got Bane out of their minds, and now they make fun of the shade of the shadow instead of making fun of the thing from Batman and Robin.
That's right. Oh, dear.
Yeah. Okay.
So, did you want to ask one more?
Yeah. We'll ask one more on Facebook from Sean Roney. Ask, what was your favorite movie of 2014?
2014.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what movies came out then.
I have my answer. I made a video about it.
What was it?
Whiplash, the J.K. Simmons and Miles Teller drumming movie
It is
so fantastic.
Yeah.
Movies don't usually bring me to such a level of like euphoria, and where the movie just ends, I'm just like smiling and just rolling over in my chair like, it's so cool. Whiplash did that. 2 movies did that last year. It was Guardians of the Galaxy and Whiplash. Whiplash is so incredible. J.K. Simmons does such a good job. He won the Oscar for it. The score is fantastic. Damien Chazelle, the director and the writer, really made you feel like it's one of the most intense movies of the year, but like nothing happens. It's just a guy wanting to be a good drummer. But the way they do it and the way it's shot, the cinematography is great. It's just, if you find Whiplash anywhere, and you'll probably end up really loving it. It's fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might make that my homework assignment for next week.
Yes, that's your homework assignment. I don't have a homework assignment yet. Okay, that's your homework. Your homework is watch Whiplash.
Yeah, so I don't really know what my favorite one was of last year. I can't even really remember what movies came out.
Well, there was Godzilla. There was,
well,
good movies.
Like
There was X-Men. There was Winter Soldier. There was...
Oh, it'd probably be Winter Soldier. Yeah.
Yeah, there was Guardians. There was...
I like that too.
All right.
Yeah.
You'll take Winter Soldier. Okay. So I took a great movie, and you took a mediocre film at best. All right, we'll take it.
What?
Okay.
So mediocre that the guys are now making the Infinity Wars, yeah.
It's because they made money, not because it was...
How dare you quote Immortal Joe when you're talking about Winter Soldier?
Mediocre. That's a good movie. Yeah, it's a good movie. Okay, so what are we doing next week?
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I have absolutely no idea. Because the next big sort of movie to come out is The Walk, and that's on the 22nd, and our next recording is the 19th.
The Walk's been out here, 2-3 weeks.
What?
Yeah,
I asked you last week if it's out, and you said no.
No, yeah, it came out October 2nd.
What?
Yeah, dude.
No, that's not what you said last week.
I don't know. Maybe it opened wide last week, but it's been out like in IMAX and select theaters.
Oh, okay.
I just haven't gone to it. I just
yeah, sure. Well, it doesn't open here for another 2 weeks, so I guess we can't talk about that. You know what?
No.
We mentioned we'll let the listeners decide.
There we go. Listener choice. Do you want to
pick a franchise?
Like
we could talk about Star Wars, or we can talk about Indiana Jones, or we can talk about Nolan.
Do you
want
to talk Star Wars? Do you want to talk Star Wars?
Prequels or originals?
Well, do you want to smile? Do you want to slit your wrist? Like you really? No, we're not talking. We are never talking the prequels. I'm putting my foot down.
Okay. Well, let's yeah. Do you want to do the originals then?
Yeah. I get to watch Jedi.
You can explain your problems with all of the movies except for Empire.
I get to rant about New Hope. Oh, man.
Yeah. It's interesting because, like, when you go back and watch, like, A New Hope, you realize if this was released today, it would never have succeeded because there's so much stuff that people would pick apart.
Yes. I can't. Oh, man. We're finally going to answer the question of why there's a 2-meter wide hole on the Death Star.
Because it's an exhaust port, for all that exhaust.
No, it's because Luke shoots womp rats. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Oh, man.
Yeah. All right. Well, there we have it, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Us fumbling our way through 2 of the old James Bond movies.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to be interesting to see how Spectre takes this, in what direction they go.
It's going to see who listens to this whole 2.5-hour podcast. That's what I can't wait to see. The audience retention of this podcast. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they have audience retention on the analytics for this, but you can see on SoundCloud. It says how many views everything gets or downloads.
There we go.
Gets.
Okay.
So shout out to Milan Jeftik, the Russian comic book geek, for his amazing artwork for the podcast here.
Yes. So, Bandit, where can the people find you?
The people can find me on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter as Bandit Incorporated, and they can find you.
They can find me on the Instagram and Twitter and YouTube, all at Podcast Media. I'm hopefully getting my charger back for my laptop soon, which means I'll post new videos and all that awesome greatness. Yeah, subscribe. I'm at 285 subscribers. So I'm like 15 away from 300, which is kind of cool. So yeah, that's cool.
All right. And we'll see you guys next week where we talk about the original Star Wars trilogy in its entirety.
Yes, catch you all later, our movie maniacs.